after the destruction of the cities, a ruthless warlord rules what's left of a radioactive world.
God damn!
His weapon, 20 tons of bulletproof armor on wheels. Battle truck.
Stop firing, or I will completely destroy this village.
Hello. Oh, wait. Coming to you live from deep within a bitterly cold, icy, radioactive wasteland full of truckers. But
Bitterly cold? It's like 5 degrees.
Oh, well, that's where you are. You get Chinooks and stuff. Well, I guess it's not
No,
really.
I
bitter.
don't.
It's going to be. It's going to be.
Edmonton doesn't get Chinooks. What the fuck?
I thought it was an Alberta thing. All right.
No,
Regardless.
Calgary thing.
Okay, a Calgary.
Chinooks don't venture further north than Calgary. What the fuck is wrong with you, Alison? I thought you were an Albertan.
I didn't live in Alberta all my life, so.
Yeah, just never in Edmonton.
Yeah, never in Edmonton. I don't know. Okay, so anyway, now that we've
That's why Alison and I hate each other. Is I'm from Edmonton and she's from Calgary.
Yeah. Okay. Well, for a certain value from
it
Calgary,
sounds like the
sure.
Bears and the Packers thing in the States.
Yeah, no, it's a Flames Oilers thing.
Ah, see.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Oh yeah.
You'd think that flames and oil would go well together, but no.
Yeah, and an Eskimo Stampeders thing. Although we changed our freaking football team's name to the Elks because Eskimo was like
racist. Okay,
yeah.
Let me try this again. Coming
Okay.
to you live from a wintry, radioactive wasteland, currently full of truckers, but not, minus one prime minister who has fled his country for parts unknown. Well, he might be in the country, but he might be in a bunker somewhere.
He's probably in his little cottage in Quebec. That fucker.
Or maybe he's in Cuba with his grandparents. Anyway,
yeah, I know.
or his his
uncle
or something. I don't know.
His
uncles. Yeah. Okay, so
the Castros,
yeah, with his
of the eyebrows,
with his. God damn.
Just go and look. Go and superimpose a picture of young Fidel Castro against Justin Trudeau, and tell me they are not father and son.
It's really hard to deny. Like, he looks nothing like Trudeau, and he looks like
nothing
literally
like Pierre.
Nothing like Pierre Trudeau, and literally identical to Fidel Castro.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, he
and
looks
Pierre,
exactly like him.
Yeah, and Pierre's wife went to Cuba a lot.
And Pierre's wife was also, a bit of a slut.
Oh, you think? She only just disappeared for 2 fucking weeks and went on a bender banging the entire fucking Rolling Stones and their road crew. and left her husband there, prime minister, trying to, answer questions from the press. Where's your wife? Well, I don't know.
Castro was a slut maker.
What? Who was a slut maker?
Fidel Castro was a slut maker.
A slut maker.
Well, he was a very manly man, you see, and he could sweet talk the ladies. And he'd leave the house. He'd tie an onion to his belt because that was the style at the time. And you were like top notch in Cuba if you could afford an onion.
Okay, he could have, he could have ended up looking like Keith Richards, but no.
Oh yeah, no. Well,
no.
Yeah, I could see it.
Yeah, Justin could
I could see it. I could see that.
I hope he doesn't live as long.
I just feel really bad for his dad, because it's like Maggie Trudeau was just like such a fucking psycho. I mean, she's literally bipolar, completely psycho. And then Justin's like, my mother taught me how to be a proper feminist. And it's like,
A lunatic.
yeah.
A
She taught you
lunatic.
how to be a freaking lunatic who just is like, oh, okay, I'll just be a psycho and like trample all over everyone around me.
Everybody's right. Which is why the truckers are going to Ottawa, which is really cool because it's like in North America, it was the Canadians who eventually said we've had enough. But
there have been lots of rallies and stuff in the United States that just don't get any media coverage, and the media blackout on this one has been just absolutely. They literally tried. The CBC were like, "Ooh, 200 truckers in BC are driving from like Abbotsford to Vancouver to protest like bad road conditions," and it's like. So anybody who was like, "Ooh, trucker convoy," searching that on Google, that would be the top hit. Oh, it's just about road conditions, right? And like they didn't actually report on the 50,000 fucking trucks driving from Delta to Ontario to Ottawa, right, to protest all of the mandates and the lockdowns and stuff. Yeah, so basically they tried to just like, oh, we'll report on this other like little tiny socially and politically correct trucker protest convoy thingy. And then anybody looking for information on this other one that we don't like, and then Trudeau comes out and says, "Oh, it's a fringe group with unacceptable views." I'm like, you can go fuck yourself.
Did you see the pictures from Ottawa?
Oh no, I haven't. I haven't.
Well, unfortunately, the live stream that was going on was actually taken off of YouTube. So
of course it would be. Of course it would be, Alison, because it's like, okay, it's not the science. Okay, even though the CDC finally came out a few months ago and said, "Oh, just FYI, cloth masks actually don't work. That's not COVID misinformation anymore," right? And after the CDC came out and finally said, like a month ago, right? Oh, actually, previous infection is about 5 times as protective as vaccination alone. And getting vaccinated on top of a previous infection doesn't offer you any extra protection. Oh, sorry, my bad. We just forgot to let you know.
Well, while I was watching earlier this morning, there was a huge crowd in front of the Parliament.
Oh yeah, no, there were like huge crowds in -30 weather on the sides of fucking highways, waving flags at these trucks as they drove by. A 43-mile long convoy of trucks driving by at slow speed, right? And these people are standing in -30 weather, cheering them on.
Even the Amish were on the highway cheering them on.
That's the Mennonites. We don't have the Amish.
Well, you know, the people.
The Hutterites and the Duke of Wars and the Mennonites.
Yeah, the Hutterites. It was Hutterites, actually. Maybe like I'm using the term Amish in a broad way so people know generally the kinds of people we're talking about. But technically, they were Hutterites. But nonetheless, even they were out there supporting truckers, which was pretty big. Telling you, man, the Amish and all of their related subgroups, they got it figured out, I think. Anyway.
Yeah, they'll probably inherit the earth. Yeah, and so at that point where there was these gigantic crowds around Parliament Hill, some media guys said there's about 300 people assembled. Like, I wish I could show you the live stream before they pulled it. It's like, no, 300 people, right? Okay. Like, the entire square was packed. And there were more and more people filtering in. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, so I mean, there've been various protests all over the world, and the media is not reporting on it anywhere. Poland, I mentioned that Italy and Australia are doing similar things with truckers the other day. The United States, and yeah, it's like in little Austria, you know, they've gone back to basics.
There's been tons and tons and tons of massive fucking protests.
Hmm.
Massive, like tens of thousands of people all over Europe, in the UK, in Australia, in Melbourne, right? All over the fucking place, right? Protesting lockdowns and mandates and all of that stuff. And they just don't get any media coverage.
Yep.
Right? The media just chooses not to report on them. And so everybody thinks that, the public sentiment is in favor of these mandates. And I'm just like, Jesus fuck. Like, can we just please be honest about this? Right? Like, I'm not anti-vax, right? But you are about to turn me into somebody who's anti-vax. Right? You are about to, like, make me, like, if I have grandchildren one day, like, don't get them measles, mumps, rubella. Don't get them diphtheria, pertussis, and tetanus. Don't get them any of these vaccines because fuck vaccination, right? Because of what they're doing, right? Like, nobody has ever approached me and said, in order to be allowed into a restaurant, you need to be vaccinated against chicken pox because we have an outbreak of chicken pox in the area, and your natural immunity to chicken pox from your infection when you were like 6 just isn't protecting anybody. Nobody's telling me that. You know why? Because it would be stupid.
Yep. Okay, we should probably get into the actual discussion. I'm actually infuriated that this live stream was taken off because it showed the crowd gathering as the day wore on. I don't know why it would have been taken down, but apparently we can't see that. It shows the truth.
Because
Yeah.
they just don't want you to see the fake news, Allison.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway,
the current insurrection
because these are fringe people. It's a fringe, a tiny fringe minority, Allison.
Yeah, they're Nazis. They're literally fascist.
Yeah, and there are no people of color among them.
Yeah, no, that's impossible.
Okay, let's okay. Before we get into it, I just want to remind everybody we're doing our monthly fundraiser. I will be doing shout outs to anybody who supports during the show and giving you thanks. Please do go and put some shekels in the hat. I know the biggest hurdle usually isn't the inability to put some shekels in the hat. And for those of you who can't, I understand this isn't directed towards you. It's simply because you're snug and you're in your robe blanket with your tea or your coffee or your whiskey. And you just don't want to get up and go to the site, feed the badger, and put in the time. And that's I can understand that, but it does really help. And if I have to, I will do the guilt tripping and the arm twisting. I would prefer not to today because I'm dealing with a very sick cat, and I'm not in the best of moods, shall we say. So I'd really appreciate it if I don't have to do the guilt tripping and the arm twisting, and you just are like, you know what? I'll take the time to go to feedthebadger.com and put $5 in the hat or $10 or whatever you can spare. So once again, that's feedthebadger.com. The monthly fundraiser is at feedthebadger.com/project/badger-media-blitz. And I will be doing thank yous during the stream. We have I believe 1,300 left, 1,350 left. I can double check right now. Incidentally, thank you to Meredith G, who put in 100 prior to the show.
Let me find a thing for that. Oh man, I wish I had
an Electrus Mail who put in 50. Yeah, the classic spoon.
Yeah.
All right, so please join them at feedthebadger.com/project/badger-media-blitz. And if nobody does, then I will resort to the arm twisting. All right, let's get this show on the road.
Yeah. First, I got some super chats, a bunch actually. So I'm gonna read through them really quick, and then we'll dive in to. Oh, Polaris589 gives us $10 and says, "The fuck was that intro?" That's basically the way the mainstream media is going to report on the trucker convoy. I'm just giving you guys a heads up on that one. Egregious Charles gives us $5 and says, "Money, that's all." Thank you, Charles. Hothead Studios gives us $10 and says, "Honey for the Badgers." Thank you, Hothead. Great Indoors 1979 gives us €5 and he puts like musical notes, so I guess these are song lyrics, but unfortunately I don't listen to Neil Young. I never did. So I probably don't know this song. And he writes, "Keep on trucking in the world. Hey, hey, my song list
Keep
poof
on
Spotify."
trucking in the world.
Oh my god.
Do.
Hey, hey,
All right.
my song list went poof on Spotify. Neil Diamond, I think. No, it's actually Neil Young. Neil Diamond.
Hey,
different.
my songs went poof on Spotify. It's better to burn out than to waste away. My, hey. And I sing it exactly like him, just as out of tune.
Yeah. Okay.
And then,
all right.
Lastly, I have a super chat from Meadow Wolf for $5, and he says, "Badger food." All right, so thank you guys for the super chats. Let's do this. A little bit of preamble because it's necessary. Laura Bates was invited to speak at the Sydney Opera House about the Manosphere because she, her book, was it like Men Who Hate Women or something like that? Which sounds like a wordy title. I mean, considering what she thinks about men, why didn't she just call it Men? Saying men hate women is a bit redundant when you believe that that's the default position that men hold. So, but yeah, so she was asked to speak at the Sydney Opera House about the book, and like, all right, so let me stop sharing the OBS and start sharing video so you guys will be able to hear the audio for this. Go ahead and join it, and let me know when you guys are ready. Yeah, I know. Isn't that really 1984-ish? Like the giant screen
and
with the giant
she's
face.
Like she's one of like Mike Buchanan's gormless feminists of the month, like repeat winners.
Yeah, right. Of course.
So
yeah.
This is gonna be a joy. It's gonna be a treat. Also, she's really creepy because she seems to want to sexualize underage boys and pretend to be one. And nobody bats an eye at that because, you don't when it's a woman.
Oh yeah, no. When you go into like a forum for young men in their teens, and you're an adult woman, a 30, 40-year-old woman, and you basically trick them into thinking that you're a woman their age or a young man their age, and then you kind of groom them and that there's nothing untoward about that.
Yeah, there's nothing weird going on. Laura Bates almost exclusively talks about boys as the thing that she deals with the most too. So just have a listen to some of this. I know that a lot of this is shit we've heard before, but let's do it.
What was it that made you realize that Men Who Hate Women was an important book to write?
Well, the interesting thing is that I think as a woman online with an opinion, as a woman in politics, as a feminist woman, you will be aware, and I'm sure many women in our audience will be aware of these communities of men. But of course, I didn't write the book for 9 years, and the reason why was because although I began to investigate these men, because it was a complete shock, and who were these people sending me these things, and I started to build.
I'm just pausing it there because it's the 30-second mark. So she's
Mhm.
explaining. Go ahead.
Oh yes, the return of this breathless woman.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
I like how she says as a woman online, and then a woman with an opinion, and then a feminist woman. Have you considered the third thing is actually the most relevant thing? It's not really just being a woman online. It might be that your ideas are terrible and the boys hate them, the ideas. But anyway.
Yeah, no. It's like what's frustrating, what's the most frustrating to me about like everything that's going on right now with this pandemic is like we're supposed to be data driven, we're supposed to be following the science, and yet nobody's following the science. All of the people in charge are not following the science. And then when they finally come around, and like it only took the CDC 22 fucking months to admit that natural immunity was a thing, right? Okay. Like, even though they're like, well, vaccines, vaccination, we need vaccination. It's like, what's vaccination? It's artificially induced natural immunity, right? So if natural immunity wasn't a thing, vaccination couldn't be a thing, right? Anyone with any sense knows that, right? But it took you 22 months to finally admit it. Well, and then they're like, why is everybody so angry? Yeah, why are they angry with you, bitch?
Yep.
Well, maybe here's another.
I have seen so much fake fucking information. I have seen so much faulty information, studies, preprints, all of that with this pandemic, right? Just shit that gets published, and then it gets taken down, and it gets retracted because the data was fabricated, whatever. I cut my teeth reading studies on reading bullshit like what she's spewing. Being able to spot the methodological errors, being able to spot the way that they can weight their instrument to find one result that they want to find, right? Like, it's easy peasy to pick all of this shit out after you've spent 12 years wading through feminist fucking research, right? Super easy to spot errors in reasoning, lead time bias, freaking getting rid of the control group. Oh my goodness. Let's get rid of the control group, and then we won't have anyone to compare anything against. Right? And then we can just say, oh, well, it was just climate change that made all of those men grow boobs. Right? It's like, I'm sorry. You can only wade through so much shoddy fucking feminist research and not learn how to spot the shoddy research in the allegedly harder sciences. Right? And I'm just like, this fucking bitch, she's just like, oh yeah, and she's wondering, well, why are these young men so mad at me? Why
Okay,
were they sending me these things?
Okay, I'm going to give these young men another tool in their arsenal against this woman whenever she comes into their classrooms. Hopefully with her hand out of her pants.
Why are you so interested in my sexuality?
Yeah, stop sexualizing me. Stop exposing me as a minor to sexual content that you may or may not have your own interest in as an older woman. Okay, these are things you can do too. You can start accusing her and start telling your principals or the staff of your school that this woman makes you uncomfortable and you feel like she is a sexually predatory presence in your school. Because she is. Like, this is stuff you shouldn't have to tolerate as a human being. If you are a minor, you shouldn't have to tolerate an adult coming into your classroom, sexualizing you in a demonic way as well. So demonizing your sexuality, which is sexualizing you, making you uncomfortable, and making you listen to sexually charged material. Everything about that is inappropriate. And you have every right to push back against it. And then ask the adults who presumably have responsibility over you, why they are allowing this woman to come in and to sexualize you as a minor. Because that's what this is.
Yeah.
There is absolutely no reason for her to do this, especially considering the sheer rate at which female teachers are abusing boys.
Yeah.
The real problem, the real thing we need to get addressed in school and bring awareness to is that, not the sexual abuse that boys perpetuate, the sexual abuse that's being perpetuated on them by adult women in particular. Since we all salaciously recognize that men are sexually predatory towards boys, and we seem to love it because it, it's the intersection between our hatred of men and
our hatred of homosexuality.
Yeah, so we just love that shit. But we don't want to recognize when women do this to boys. And this is one of those women who she's just really walking the edge, the line here between potentially really inappropriate. Well, I actually would say it is inappropriate. In a sane world, she wouldn't be allowed to do it. But, push back. Start questioning her motives for doing this. Because they don't seem pure. I don't know. I mean, if a man started to pretend to be a teenage girl and infiltrate forums where the teenage girls on those forums assume that everybody's another teenage girl, would we be so willing to give him the benefit of the doubt? And yet we do that for Kate here. Kate, was it Kate? Karen?
No,
it's Laura Bates.
Laura Bates.
Laura. Why do I keep saying Kate?
You're thinking Kate Smurthwaite.
Yeah, okay, Laura. We do that. We give Laura the benefit of the doubt. We give Laura Bates the benefit of the doubt. We would not give a man the benefit of the doubt. We probably shouldn't give a man the benefit of the doubt if he were to pretend to be a teenage boy and infiltrate a forum where teenage girls presume everybody they're talking to is a teenage girl. We wouldn't give a man a benefit of the doubt. Probably shouldn't. And we shouldn't give Laura Bates here the benefit of the doubt. And we shouldn't give her access to minors in this way if she's going to persistently sexualize them. But, what do I know?
I don't know. Okay, so let us continue. Abstract Concrete gives us 25 lens and says something. Thank you, Abstract Concrete. All right, let's go back to Laura Bates.
An awareness of this sort of murky online world that they inhabited, there was at the time a very powerful and often repeated argument, a sort of version of Don't Feed the Trolls, which was that we shouldn't give these communities the oxygen of publicity. And at the time I was sympathetic to that argument. So although I was extremely aware of these communities, I was in touch with them on a daily basis, hundreds of them, I didn't talk about this for the best part of a decade. What I did do was start going into schools and working with young people.
So I'm just pausing again there for the banana. I think that when she says, "Oh well, I was sympathetic to the idea that we should not feed the trolls, we shouldn't give these oxygen." So why then has she changed her tune on that? And I think I know why. I think it's because the Manosphere and all of the conversations connected to it are growing in popularity, especially and in particular criticisms of feminism. And she and her fellow white tower intellectual feminist types, they don't like that at all. So they're gonna try and stop it in their own ways. Hers is through age boys. So
I just find it hilarious because she's just like, there is nothing in her mind, right? Asking the question, do these young men have a point? None. That's not a question that can be asked.
And that's not predatory at all for an old woman not to consider the point of view of the men or the young men she's imposing on.
Yeah, well, but it's like what I'm saying is, at no point in her decade-long journey or more, right, did she ever ask, do these guys have a point?
Oh.
God forbid.
How could anyone know more about gender than her? It's impossible.
How could
Yeah,
young
well,
men?
how could anybody know more about what it's like to be a young man than her?
Yeah, and how could young men have the right to say, "Hey, lady, you're making me uncomfortable"? How could they possibly have that right? I mean, after all, they're just minors. They should be doing whatever old women tell them to do.
Oh my God.
You know, they should be accepting impositions on their boundaries, sexual impositions, whatever kind of impositions old women
Moral impositions.
moral impositions. You know, like they don't have any right. A young teenage boy doesn't have any right to say no, to say this makes me uncomfortable. This
makes me feel guilty for no fucking reason that I can identify.
Yeah, or this makes me feel ashamed of my sexuality.
Yeah.
No, young men don't have the right to say these things. Laura Bates has told us all how young men should think. And what a surprise! Young men should think to be grateful for Laura Bates's sexualization of them.
All right, let us continue.
I'm good and grossed out.
There's good stuff later.
Partly because so many of our entries to the Everyday Sexism Project were from girls, schoolgirls talking about experiences of sexual violence and abuse. But partly because it seemed to me pragmatic. It seemed that the most obvious way to try and tackle the problem was to start somewhere where we could get everybody in a room before the point at which these attitudes became ingrained, and the obvious place to do that was at school. So for about 8 years, I went into around 2 schools a week on average, working with hundreds and thousands of young people from all different kinds of...
Again, just pausing at the banana. You know what I was just thinking? If you ask girls to share stories of experiences that made them feel unsafe around boys, or if they've ever been teased, or if they've been assaulted or whatever, what are the odds that you're just gonna get a bunch of responses and then you're gonna trot that out like it's evidence without confirming any of those experiences? So when she says, we did the Everyday Sexism Project, and all these girls came out of the woodwork and they all had stories to share, which means it must be valid. And I'm like, but wait, based on what though? I mean, like if you invite girls to tell stories and you've already like put it in their heads that any experience they have with a boy is probably sexual in nature, or it's probably predatory because that's the state of boys by default, then girls are just going to be like so tuned in to the possibility that a boy talking to her has like some, other designs
nefarious,
on her.
Yeah,
that she's just gonna like interpret every experience as like something dangerous, and then she's gonna share that, and then feminists like Laura Bates are gonna say, look at all this sexism. Look at all this assault.
Okay. And then you look at it from the other side of, because this is the question they never ask, right? Which is, and what about men's experience or boys' experience, right? And like literally there was this advertisement for staying fit and healthy, right? That played in the 1990s, 1980s, 1990s in Canada. Right. And it had this Italian singer singing some kind of like, when the moon hits your eye like a big pizza pie, some kind of song like that. Right. And it shows this boy running away. He's just running away from like these 4 girls. Right.
Yeah.
And he's just like desperately running away from them, and they're chasing him, and then they catch him and they start kissing him all over his face, right? This is an 8-year-old boy, maybe 10, right? And then the caption comes out, "Stay fit because you never know."
Huh.
And I'm like, it is funny, yeah. Right? And I would think it was equally funny if it was a girl being chased by a bunch of boys, and then they caught her and all they did was kiss her all over her cheeks. Right? Well, okay, maybe not, but you see my point, right? It's a humorous thing when it happens to boys, right? And it happens to boys all the time. It happens to boys all the fucking time.
Yep. And even if we're not talking about instances that are just, maybe might be considered playground pranks, we're looking at like 50% of boys, young men, describe an instance of serious sexual assault in their life. So where's that?
By the time they're college age.
Yeah, by the time they're college age. So where are those statistics, Laura Bates? And in fact, I would hope that if there are any young men who end up in her classroom, or any people who care about the young men in their lives who have this predator lurking around them, that they give those young men the statistics necessary to push back against her bullshit.
Yeah, no, and like here's the thing too, right? What I have found from my research into all kinds of things, including evolutionary psychology and the actual data and all of that, is that you aren't going to have the same connection, right? The same conscious connection between here's what happened to me, right? And and therefore I'm suffering some kind of trauma from it. You're not necessarily going to get that connection with boys who are victimized in this way, right? Or young men who are victimized in this way. You're not going to have that same, like, it's with girls, it's like they've been trained, like, oh my God, a boy took advantage of me and now I feel bad and dirty and I feel ashamed and all of this other stuff, right? And they immediately are like, they identify, that this was a problem, this was a bad thing that happened to them, right? With boys, you don't get that. With boys, they're like, okay, I'm just gonna walk it off. Like, I mean, like there was this guy in our small town. He was 15 years old. He went to a party. He got drunk. He passed out in the bedroom, and he woke up with a 50-year-old fucking ham beast, ham planet, right, riding his dick. And what did he do? He walked that shit off. He was like, oh God, I fucking hope my friends don't find out because they're gonna rib the shit out of me, right? And he was just like, I just need to forget that this ever happened, right? Definitely not going to complain about it. That he lost his virginity to a 50-year-old woman who raped him while he was passed out.
Well, okay. Laura Bates has an answer for that. Silence. These things don't happen. Or they don't matter, do they?
They don't. No.
Because so if they did, people might be questioning your interest.
I know. And if you ask that boy, were you ever raped? He'd say no. No. Oh God, no, never raped. And then if you actually said, well, did a woman ever have sex with you while you were passed out drunk at a party? He'd be like, oh yeah. Yeah, that did happen. Right? And the negative sequelae, and here's the thing, the negative sequelae, right? The increased drug and alcohol use, the doing more poorly at school, the increased anxiety, the difficulty in forming relationships, establishing trust with the opposite sex, all of these things that happen to women after they've been victimized in that way also happen to men at roughly equal rates. It's just the fact that men don't connect those negative sequelae to the experience.
No, they're told it's toxic masculinity.
It's toxic masculinity. And you should talk about your feelings. And then when they do, it's like, oh, male tears. Those are great. I mix them with my vodka every morning. I make mimosas out of them.
Oh, I hate this woman.
Bloody Marys, I think, is...
Can I don't usually say this, but this woman I absolutely hate.
No, I can't stand her.
Just
the only person I don't like more is Sachi Cool. Oh wait, Lori Penny too.
Oh my God, Lori Penny is a beast. But you know what? Lori Penny's great because she doesn't really come across as sane. So she's sort of a borderline.
Yeah, she wears
like,
a fucking
big
bondage
red
collar
feminist.
to her public speaking events. So
Yeah, right. So
That's
like
really,
the thing
that's really
is,
a subconscious statement, isn't it?
the psycho, like out there Mona Alathawi feminists, you know, they're kind of a gift. I'm okay with them. Because they don't want to like compromise their messaging, and that's good because they basically put the truth out there, at least in terms of what they believe. But Laura Bates is particularly sinister because she's trying to sell us this, you know, breathless, trembling, afraid, vulnerable woman. Of course, she's not young anymore, so it's not like working as well as maybe as it used to. But that's what makes her so sinister, I think. It's that she's like selling a different product. You know, I wish this was just Chanty Binks just yelling at us for like 12 minutes.
I still sort of like Chanty Binks.
I do too. No, I do. I think, like I said, she's a gift.
Just amusingly out in her, you know, she just, I didn't like it when she played the victim, but when she was just out there shouting her truth at the top of her lungs, it was sort of amusing.
Yeah, that's what the thing is, those feminists are, they're not getting the same publicity. Like, have you noticed, because again, I mentioned Mona Alathawi. Have you noticed that she doesn't get any publicity anymore? Because all she does is she just shouts, fuck you. And like, you know, I guess she shits and pees in public or something. Like she just goes absolutely insane. And it's like female, you know, those women that run around naked with like shit painted on their bodies. Like those are not, those women still exist. They're still doing stuff, but they're not getting publicity. Laura Bates is, because she's operating from a position presumed position of authority and intellect. So
yes, I also want to point out something when you talk about her being breathless and playing the victim. That's what female rapists do. It's actually how they operate.
okay, you guys, I got an emergency. I got to step away for about 20 minutes.
Okay. Well, probably get through like 10 minutes of this then.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe you might.
We'll just continue. Me and Brian can do it. Oh, I wanted to do what?
I'll be right back.
Go.
Okay.
Okay. Go ahead. All right. What did you?
All right. Do we have super chats? I got some thank yous to give.
No super chats. So go ahead and do your thank yous.
All right. So Pritmaster put in $20. So thank you, Pritmaster. And Felix.
What, woman?
Felix O puts in $5. So thank you, Felix O.
Thank you, Felix.
And don't forget, it's wrong to eat your children.
Okay. And if you would like to join these individuals in supporting the show, please go to feedthebadger.com/project/badger-media-blitz. Please go put some shekels in the hat. We'll turn this thing around. We'll turn this rig around. We'll turn this truck around if there's nothing in there by the top of the hour. How's that? I don't even know what that means, but we'll do it. Probably just mean we'll do more Laura Bates, but whatever. Okay, let's do more Laura Bates.
Let's do more Laura Bates. 30 seconds.
Of backgrounds all over the country and internationally. And of course, the responses were enormously varied. It wasn't always a walk in the park. Obviously, there was resistance and there were difficult conversations. But there was a marked and sinister shift in the last couple of years where suddenly I was experiencing a huge amount of resistance, of pushback.
Resistance! Pushback! Yeah. Jeez, you don't sound like a predator at all. You're an adult woman. You are an adult woman in charge of children. If children are giving you resistance and pushback, unless you're making them brush their teeth or learn, I don't know, geometry, this is just resistance and pushback, the way that you describe it. And once again, we're talking about things that are sexualized. She goes into these classrooms and she talks about sex. Specifically, she talks about dark and ugly aspects of sex, and she demonizes young men's sexuality. And they're offering resistance now. Before, they were just compliant to what she was doing. And she has a problem with that. And they don't have the right to offer resistance in her mind.
Yeah.
It's all sinister.
Yeah. There is weird overlap between feminists and child predators. There's a lot of examples, but it is a bit weird. So, okay. I guess let's go a little further. I think this is the bit where it starts to become a little bit more fun.
Backlash from teenage boys, and they were coming pre-prepared. So they were arriving at talks.
Are you saying that they are machines?
Men's right activists are machines, dude. Okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.
You're welcome, my dear.
Yeah.
You're talking to the machine shop right here. You're welcome. And we will be equipping more. Boy, does she look like an evil overlord in this particular still.
Yeah. No, if the boys were showing up to challenge her views and they were all pre-prepared, that means that she was like, I need to figure out where all of this information, these arguments are coming from. And I think that's how she came to Manosphere, because I think that, you know, the broader, I don't even want to say Manosphere, but you guys know what I mean. Like everyone who makes content anywhere that basically refutes feminist arguments. So, but yeah, interesting. Interesting that someone could show up to a classroom and she's just like, I'm going to lie to these children's faces and I'm going to tell them my version of reality. And if enough of them accept it, it becomes reality. Like that's literally it's literally the way the orcs work. And quiet. And and instead there are boys that show up there and they're like, actually, this is a myth. It's been debunked. This is a myth. It's been debunked. Right. And we don't appreciate you framing us as the cause of all pain and suffering in the world and all throughout history. So we're going to challenge these views. And she's like, well, they can't do that.
Yeah. Here's a news flash. Yeah. Here's a news flash for young men. Like if you're a minor, that means your sexuality is protected. Okay. You don't have to tolerate these women coming in and sexualizing you and demonizing your sexuality. You can call it out for what it is. It's predatory behavior. And that this should not be happening. You know, safe sex, that's fine. Okay. But this idea that you now have to take an adult responsibility in this sexual discussion, like you have to be subject to things that make you uncomfortable in a sexual context, is wrong. 100% wrong. If there is resistance to what this woman has to say, and she is continuing to force her sexual interests on you in the face of your resistance, what do you call that? So we need to start getting these boys calling her what she is, a sexual predator, right to her face. Yes. More than just the statistics, more than just the right to you have a right to your comfort as a young man, as a minor, when you're being exposed to sexual stuff. You have a right to not be uncomfortable. Now, you know, to especially when you're a minor. I mean, once you're in college, yeah, sure, maybe you have less of a right not to be triggered by things. But when you're a child being lectured to in a sexualized manner by an adult, you have a right to be uncomfortable. You have a right to express that discomfort to adults who should call her out. And if she does this, she continues to make you uncomfortable against your will in a sexual context, sexualizing you, forcing you to assume some role in her sexual theater dramatis, then she is a predator. So go beyond calling out the statistics. Start recognizing this behavior for what it is. It is sexually predatory, and it is absolutely inappropriate. for a middle-aged woman to go into a middle school classroom with young boys, demonize them sexually, force them to play a role in her sexual fantasies, and then ignore their desires, their own personal desires, their own discomfort, and the fact that they're resisting her. That is disgusting. So, if any young men are listening, your next task, should you so choose to assume it, is to start calling her out for being a sexual predator. You can even use the R word, even though it doesn't apply in England, conveniently enough for her.
Just call her
Start
nonce.
calling her out.
Nonce is what we call them in England.
Just start calling her out for behavior. If an adult makes you uncomfortable in a sexual context and refuses to acknowledge your discomfort and your resistance to what they're doing, they're a sexual predator. So you tell them the statistics, you tell them your reality, and if she continues to force whatever it is she wants on you and to sexualize you in her weird conjecture about the world, then call her out for what she is, right to her face. You, ma'am, are a sexual predator. You are sexually predating on me.
Okay, let us continue.
Believing that you were a hate-fueled feminazi who wanted to destroy men. They weren't able to listen or to engage whatsoever. And they had been indoctrinated with the same false statistics again and again. I would see in schools from
Feminists always
an
project.
inner city state school to a rural boarding school. I would hear the same false statistics about, for example, false rape allegations being extraordinarily common, or the same feminist conspiracy theories that there was a feminist conspiracy at the heart of our government seeking to destroy the lives of white men.
Well, yes. Yeah, that's not a conspiracy. I mean, feminism uses the government for all kinds of things. That's ultimately what it's about, is power.
You're trying to strip away the progress. Like that is
everything that feminism is built on is the notion of finding something that you don't control and then complaining about it, calling it sexist until you can. That's it.
Yep.
That's the whole thing. They don't control this, so they're going to complain and call it sexist, and they're going to keep doing it and keep agitating and keep asking people to vote for politicians who are going to give them this power until they have it. And then they're going to find something else. And they're going to pretend like they don't actually control the thing that they seize control of. Say, oh, that's why she's saying, isn't it ridiculous that the government they believe that there's this conspiracy theory that feminists want to use the government for control? Isn't that ridiculous, guys? And it's like, but that's what you do.
Yeah. And the other thing is that there's some sort of feminist conspiracy. It's not a conspiracy. It's open. You're constantly attacking masculinity, and it's white masculinity only insofar as you deny minority men any masculinity.
Yeah.
Like you essentially,
they're using white masculinity as a proxy for all masculinity, because if they make it white masculinity, then non-white men will, at least the idea is, they're not going to be sympathetic, because it's like, well, that's not me, but it is you. That's what I'm saying. It is you.
It is.
You're not free from that.
You extract the masculinity from minority men. You say that they can't have access to that. And if they do, then any kind of thing that's done to them is justified, which is, if you think about it, quite racist. But regardless, and then you say the only people who cannot use a minority position to get out of your implication of their moral depravement, like fallenness, are white men.
Yeah.
And you 100% are attacking masculinity. The future is female. We're pursuing a society based on female virtues and female virtues alone. Toxic masculinity. And what do you have any positive? Are there any positive masculine traits? No, that's sexist to assume that there's anything positive associated with masculinity that isn't equally associated with femininity. But we can associate all toxic things with masculinity. Yeah, you're 100% attacking masculinity. 100%. So, and it's not a conspiracy. You do it. Like, this is what's really aggravating, is these people do these things right in front of you. And then you're like, you're doing that. And because you're saying, like, you'd have two people watching these people, or crowds of people watching these people, watching feminists implicate masculinity and attempt to remove it or to teach that it's toxic, either toxic or non-existent, okay? And everybody's watching them do this, and then one half of the crowd is going, "Yay, yes, cis girl boss, lean in," and the other half is the crowd is going, "You're actually attacking masculinity, and we don't appreciate it." And then, even though both sides of the crowd are acknowledging exactly what they are doing, they'll turn to the side of the crowd, and the only difference is that they don't appreciate what they're doing and saying, "You saying that is a conspiracy theory." And the only difference is that we are acknowledging what you are doing right in front of us, and we don't appreciate it. That's not what a conspiracy theory means.
No, of course not. Saying conspiracy theory just to turn off brains, so they're just like, well, we're not gonna investigate that. I don't want to be seen as a
terminating cliche.
Yeah, that's the purpose of it. It's like, well,
which is really funny. Which is really funny because, liberals weren't actually that much against conspiracies because, you have the conspiracy against minorities, you have the conspiracy against homosexuals, you have the conspiracy against women, which doesn't really have any kind of paper trail or big names speaking out for it. Like, I don't know. I mean, there's all kinds of like feminist tours, talking tours, but I've never heard of anti, well, at least not one that's public, like publicly in the media, in academia, that just is anti, I don't know, just purely anti-woman. I mean, I know you say that the existence of conservatives is anti-woman, but I don't think they are.
No.
Well, they say that because they want to shut it down.
Yeah. Well,
anyway, I got into the weeds a bit.
Yeah, that's okay. They're crafting a thing. So, but anyway, Laura Bates isn't liberal anymore. All right, let us continue.
Who were the real victims in our society. And as these boys started parroting these specific...
Oh, by the way, that tactic. That's another commonly done tactic where feminists try to make the claim that people who are speaking about men's issues are not simply saying, oh, here are some things that are not being addressed that men deal with, but instead feminists frame it as, oh, men, these men's rights activists, these Manosphere people, they're trying to tell us, they're trying to convince us that it's actually men who are the oppressed class in society. And so this framing is important because what they're trying to do is say, look at how absolutely absurd it is that these people are claiming that men are the truly oppressed class in society. Critical race theorists do the same thing with white people, even though the truth is it's not that no one is making the claim that men are oppressed, but we are, in fact, looking at reality and saying, oh, there are areas here where men are not, we are not recognizing the ways that men can be victimized or can suffer or can have problems that they need to deal with.
We don't need to use the word oppressed. We don't need to appeal to the rhetoric because we deal with actual issues.
Yeah.
That's the simple reality. We don't need to, because the issues speak for themselves. The lack of attention to these issues speak for themselves. And these are issues that have paperwork and statistics behind them and actual logic and actual research behind them. Whereas feminist research is some of the most, it isn't. Like, it literally isn't. It's basically an assertion, and then they assert something and that's it, and then they publish it. And that is feminist. That is literally feminist research. I am asserting this, and it's peer reviewed. Oh yes, you asserted that so assertively. We're going to put this in this prestigious journal of assertions, and that's all it is. It's just a series of goddamn assertions, never actually held to any kind of scientific rigor. But we deal with actual issues, an actual phenomenon that can be seen statistically. Okay? That's why we don't need to talk about oppression. We got a paper trail, friend. You don't. You just have the ability to appeal to already existing instincts that whenever somebody screams, women are in trouble. The entire universe grinds to a halt, turns on a dime, gets every weapon available to it, and goes and slaughters whatever you point at that says, oh, this is what's threatening the women. And then the whole universe is just like, yeah, that's gone. That's what you appeal to with this vague, nebulous, and unsubstantiated oppression. That's what you're appealing to. When they talk about these things, they appeal to people's instincts to protect women. And these instincts are so powerful. They turn a thinking human being into a chimpanzee. Like their brain just turns off. It just liquefies and pours out their ears the moment somebody says women are in danger. That's it. It's over. They're no longer a thinking being. They are just a heat-seeking missile for whatever the women are in danger from. And they know that. They hit this button over and over and over again while denying it exists. And it's astounding that people don't see it for what it is. Like, do you really think, like, the way that you get a society to go send a generation of its young boys to go kill themselves is by saying that those guys over there are a threat to our women. And then you like an entire generation of boys ends up in the ground.
In the meat grinder.
In the meat grinder, and then in the ground. And you're telling me. So once again, because we're on this side of the argument, we don't get anywhere without actual legitimate issues that have a paper trail. Either there's solid research behind them, or there's research that suggests something is seriously amiss with the general party line, or there is a paper trail of legitimate disenfranchisement. We don't need to appeal to vague oppression. We don't need to say that men are oppressed. We got real issues. But she doesn't. She uses these vague terms, which basically means women are in trouble somewhere, to turn people's brains off so that they don't question her and they do what she wants.
And who actually in the men's rights movement says that men are oppressed? I mean, like, I don't come across that kind of language very often.
Occasionally.
You might get that every so often, but
marginalized in certain areas, things like that. You know, that's the kind of language that gets used. Discriminated against, but oppressed is, I mean, like, that's heavy-handed language, and I just leave that for the feminists
they can
and the race baiters. So,
well, it's like I go on Twitter and I get into these arguments with feminists, and I know everybody's like, "Don't go on Twitter, Alison. Don't do it." And they equate. They make a moral equivalence between me saying that women are equally likely to rape or equally responsible to rape, and them saying that I didn't say that there were no male victims or no female rapists. They make a moral equivalence between me saying that men and women are equally immoral and them saying that men are more immoral. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, it's basically, if they say, well, only men are bad, that's okay to say. And that's not discriminatory, that's not bigoted, that's not sexist. But if you say men and women are equally bad or equally likely to do bad things, then that is sexist against women, it's discrimination against women, it's bigoted, and it's morally bad to say that.
Yeah, that women are just as bad.
Yeah, and it's like nobody's arguing that women are worse than men.
No, well, I think they are worse insofar as they're not held to any goddamn standard anymore.
Yeah, well, yeah, in some ways, and then also because they're not held accountable.
Yeah, but that is not inherent necessarily to women. It's just an effect of society deciding, I guess, unilaterally that women need no standards. And unfortunately, people live up to the standards that they're held to.
Or
so
now.
if women have no standards, they're living up to nothing. Okay. Just like this. Like, I mean, a man would never get away with what Laura Bates is doing here. Never.
Yeah.
The moment he opened his mouth and said, "Yeah, I disguised myself as a teenage girl and infiltrated a forum of teenage
For teenage girls who are sexually frustrated.
to discuss their sex life with them," they would be
Jesus
like,
fuck.
whoa.
He'd be like, to catch a predator.
By the way, the UK educational system gives me regular access to teenage girls, and I talk to them about my sexual thoughts. You know,
Yeah,
how quickly would that be shut down?
That would be like on an episode of To Catch a Predator. It would literally be like, actually, I'm pretty sure you were trying to lure a 13-year-old girl.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she would already be slammed with the standards that men are held to. And in this case, I think that that is a decent standard. She should not be uncritically, like, I just can't believe it. She's going to these places. I mean, she's being interviewed and she's saying, "Yeah, I disguised myself as a 13-year-old boy. And then I went to a forum of underage boys and I talked to them about sexual stuff." And I'm like,
about masturbating and about their sexual fantasies and about,
And nobody's like, "Whoa, wait." Nobody but us. I'm pretty sure almost nobody has pointed this out but us. Nobody's like, "Wait a second. Something's there. There's a check and balance that didn't check and balance this woman at some point, because she shouldn't be able to do this and she shouldn't be able to get interviews and people are lapping it up." But that's the thing, the society we live in. She's not held to a standard of sexual propriety with vulnerable young men. She's not expected to respect them and their sexuality. She is allowed to behave in this manner that if a man behaved in it towards young girls, we would instantly recognize that he has serious boundary issues.
Yeah.
And we would not allow him to operate with this veneer of self-righteous innocence.
I know, she just sounds so like girlish, like
which is another red flag.
She talks in a very high voice.
That's a huge red flag.
She's got a very My Secret Garden kind of accent, like as if she's from a C.S. Lewis novel.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, let's continue.
And as they started repeating to me the names of the male leading lights, if you like, of these online communities, suddenly it fell into place for me that these boys were being radicalized, that they were being groomed online by these communities extremely successfully and cleverly. And at that point, suddenly...
Wow. So they're being groomed by other men because those men are saying, "Yeah, these feminist statistics, they're all bullshit." And these people, the projection, it's constant. We're learning so much about Laura Bates right now, basically.
Well, I'm curious if they actually brought up other things besides like false rape accusations, because I'd imagine.
Well, I'm sure that they've, because like you can get like the wage gap and the pink tax and
but let's keep it to the sexual stuff.
Okay.
What about the stuff about sexual exploitation of boys and young men? They didn't bring that up, Laura? No, they probably did, guaranteed, because as you know, the I don't want to say Manosphere, but the people who talk about men's issues don't just talk about false accusations of rape. They also talk about sexual assault of boys and men and how it's ignored. So they are bringing that up. She is choosing to ignore the fact that they're bringing that up.
The oxygen of publicity argument really kind of ceased to make sense, because actually at that point it seemed to me that it was quite useful for these communities that nobody knew who they were if they were managing to reach out and have such a huge impact on a generation of young men without any of the teachers or the parents or the governments in a position to support and prevent that from happening, having any idea who those
a predator feels her pool of prey is drying up.
No, it's like, and the government needs to step in and stop this free sharing of ideas and information. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, but also these guys in the Manosphere have this conspiracy theory that feminists are using the government to silence them. Also, the government should silence them.
But why isn't the government silencing these men?
Yeah, exactly.
Government isn't doing enough to silence them.
Oh, note the pattern. The government is always the solution. And the government's job is to use force to stop people from saying things that Laura Bates does not like.
Oh my God. It's just
touching me there.
Like accusing her of using the government to silence them.
I know. Exactly. And then she's like, well, and then they accused me of wanting to use the government to silence them. And then I asked the government to silence them, and the government said that they couldn't. And I was just very upset because first off, these men were lying about me that I wanted the government to silence them. And then secondly, the government refused to silence them at my request.
Okay, I got a couple super chats. Binary Eclipse gives us $10 Australian and says feminism is full of creepers. Oh yeah, totally. And William Thomas gives us $10 Australian as well. I think it's morning there, so good morning, Aussies. I hope you guys are doing okay. I love my Australian friends. William Thomas gives us $10 Australian and says, I finally caught a show. Here's some back pay. All right. Well, thank you, William Thomas. Appreciate that. Yeah. It's really
I'll buy that for $1.
All right. So let us continue.
I'll gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today.
So the Manosphere, Laura, is something that you became aware of when it became apparent to you that there was a language and a set of statistics and arguing points that was common across all of these boys. What is the Manosphere?
Oh boy.
Oh no.
The Laura Bates definition of the Manosphere. This woman is scary too. Okay, you guys ready? Here we go.
It's a loosely defined, interconnected network, if you like, of a number of different communities united really by a hatred of women.
No, just a hatred of you, Laura. I mean, I also hate Karen, but that's different.
Yeah, no, Alison and I hate each other, but it's mostly a Calgary Edmonton kind of hatred. It's not based on ideological or moral grounds or racial or sexual hatred or anything.
She just deflect all hatred towards her as hatred towards women.
Yeah, I know. It's bizarre because if I actually thought that the hatred that I experienced was indicative of the hateful comments and hateful things that have been said about me, right? If I just looked at the people who were saying those things, I'd be like, oh well, that's progressives and leftists and feminists and intersectionals and pretty much everybody other than libertarians and conservatives. And they all hate me, therefore they all hate women.
I don't even think they hate her. I think they hate her ideas.
Well, okay, I
she's
will.
Pretty hateable though.
I beg to differ.
She is hateable, but.
Oh God, like I said, only maybe Sachi Cool and Laurie Penny are superior to her in my ability to have hostile feelings.
Whatever happened? I'm sorry to bust in here really quick, but whatever happened to that other
Sachi
feminist?
Cool?
No. Wolf? Is it Naomi Wolf?
Naomi Wolf. Oh God.
She's flipped on the whole COVID thing, right? And I think that she's been unpersoned as a feminist. I don't think that she's allowed to wear the badge.
You know what's really awful about that, okay? Because before COVID, right? She had that book that came out. It was about
The one that she got
like
busted
basically
out on.
yeah, it was the beauty myth. The thesis of the beauty myth was women suddenly demanded their rights. Hey, you patriarchal men, give us our rights. And then men were like, look, a distraction, a diversion, thunder thighs, and crow's feet, right? And then women were like, ooh, let's all get anorexia instead of fighting for our rights.
Right. Because guys hate thighs.
Yeah, well, but what I'm saying is, like, this was her thesis in the beauty myth, and her thesis in this other book, right? This newest book was, women were like, "Hey, patriarchal men, give us our rights," and the patriarchy said, "Look at all these gay men having anal sex," and then the women were like, "Ooh, burn the gays! Who cares about women's rights?" Yeah. Okay. Yeah. This is literally what her premise was, right? And I actually I tweeted that at what's his name, Douglas Murray.
Well, that name is familiar, Douglas Murray. Yeah.
The gay author who wrote The Madness of Crowds.
Yeah, Douglas Murray. Yep, that's him.
Yeah. Yeah. I tweeted this. I was like, okay, so let me guess. This was her premise. Right. And he actually followed me based on that tweet. Right. Okay. And then I got banned. But anyway, so it was like, but like they caught her out on this huge fucking error of research, like a massive, catastrophic, killed her thesis 100%. Right. Her entire thesis was based on the fact that gays were still being executed in Victorian England for homosexual sex, and nobody was being executed for homosexual sexual intercourse, sodomy, anything in Victorian England at the time. You know, like
there's probably other countries one could name off where that's
it was her complete lack of legal acumen to interpret a legal term called death recorded, right? Yeah. Which was a way for judges to suspend a death sentence. We've recorded a sentence of death. We're jailing him for 2 years, and then he's going to be released and into the community. And then the guy who called her out on live air says, and then there's this issue of this young man that you're talking about, Thomas Silver. I mean, this wasn't homosexual love. He was convicted of indecently assaulting a 6-year-old boy, right? And she's like, oh, right? Okay, but that didn't freaking cancel her. What canceled her was saying, if I realized that Biden was in favor of lockdowns, I wouldn't have voted for him.
Yeah.
That's what got her in hot water.
Yep.
Not saying that 100,000 women every year were dying from anorexia, which it's actually less than 100 women, less than 100 women a year dying of anorexia in the United States. Yeah, not that much. It's like a tragedy, but it's still not that much. Not this massive, catastrophic error, right, that she made that actually had her book be recalled and pulped. The only copies that still exist are the advance review copies that were given to journalists, right? That, like, there's like probably like 30 copies out there, right? Of this 120,000 copy print run book, right? That they had to pull them all off bookstore shelves, ship them back to the publisher, and put them through a shredder, right? Because they were just so tainted by this one mistake she made. And here's the thing, her Oxford fucking doctoral thesis, her PhD thesis at Oxford was based on this very thing. And none of the peer reviewers, none of the doctoral freaking board like none of them caught the mistake.
Yep.
Right? So she has a doctorate. She has a fucking PhD based on something that's completely fucking false, on a thesis that makes no sense whatsoever because she got something so important, so factually wrong. That wasn't what canceled her. What canceled her was if I'd known Biden was in favor of lockdowns, I never would have voted for him.
Yep. True. And so, I mean, it's funny because I'm wondering how she's doing and where she is now. She's changed.
Oh, she's doing fine.
Yeah,
she's doing fine. She was worth $3 million fucking dollars.
Yeah.
When she upbraided me for saying that she was wealthy. How dare you comment on you don't know anything about my financial situation. She was worth $3.2 million when she said, that I had no right as a waitress, no right to judge her financial circumstances.
Well,
I know.
We should just all become feminists for the money.
Oh, God.
Can we just actually grift? Because I bet I can make like really great.
Oh God, I could write that bullshit all day if I wanted to, and I could sell it, and I'd get book deals.
Telling you, man, I'm sick of being poor. It's sometimes I wonder.
Oh God, yeah.
Okay. Anyway, let's see. I got some super chats, and then we'll continue the video. Albert Nader Retro gives us $5 Canadian and says, when Naomi Wolf was busted for her bad research, Karen had a spontaneous climax. LOL.
Oh, I did. I did. Yeah. I was just like, oh. And like my husband came out into the living room and went, oh, I thought you were having a seizure. Are you okay? Yeah. And I was like, I'm just sliding off the couch right now.
And Great Indoors 1979 gives us €5 and says, FYI, a college got the booster shot about 10 days ago. First, I guess he means a colleague. Oh, I'm sorry. A colleague got the booster shot about 10 days ago. First, he was a day sick because of the shot. Now he's sick at home because he has the coof. I got no words, no comment. I disavow. Susan, step in and do something about this man. Okay.
Oh.
No, this can't have happened. Absolutely
no. It's like my triple vaccinated, religiously N95 wearing sister totally did not get Omicron 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago today.
What I don't get is how the people who promote all this will simultaneously agree that it doesn't stop transmission.
But then they'll say that you have to do it to protect other people.
Yeah, but not just that. Well, because you're taking up spots in the
Oh yeah, well, you know who else is taking up spots? Like 80% of everyone who's hospitalized with this is obese.
Okay, let me just lay out the argument that I've seen. Okay, so you'll start and you'll say, but the shot doesn't, or the jab doesn't seem to prevent transmission. And if they go, well, but it reduces, and it's like, well, it doesn't seem to reduce it either.
No.
And originally I remember
that
the pharma companies said that it wasn't likely to reduce it, probably because they knew that the new variants were going to come out and knock it out of the park. But when you say that, then they go with, but you should take it anyway so you don't clog up the hospitals. And then you'll say something like, but okay, so do people have to lose weight so they don't clog up the hospitals? And then they'll say, but fat isn't infectious. And then you'll say, but we just...
But it clogs up the hospitals. It's like 80% of everyone who's hospitalized with coof is obese.
Yeah, but then they'll say, but being fat isn't infectious. And then you'll say, but now we're back to... The same person will say being fat isn't infectious and you need to take the jab in order to stop transmission. So if it doesn't stop transmission, they say, well, you need to take it to prevent going into the hospital. Well, do you need to lose weight to prevent going into the hospital? Fat isn't infectious. You need to take it to 50%. It's like...
You need to do it to... Oh, man, like, okay, so Office of National Statistics in the UK, right? They just released a bunch of data, right? And this is just raw data, right? And they found that the test positivity rate, so the percentage of tests done that turn out to be positive, right? For people who are vaccinated, people who mask all the time, 3.8%. People who don't mask, 4.6%. So masks give you a 20% edge. 20%. Okay? So they're really not very protective. 17 and under, kids 17 and under, vaccinated versus unvaccinated, the viral shed rate when they're infected, identical. Vaccination makes no difference. So they can no longer say, get vaccinated to protect gran and granddad. Because you're shedding as much virus whether you're vaccinated or not.
Yeah,
and it doesn't prevent you from getting it. It doesn't prevent you from spreading it, right? And then the CDC finally came out and they're like, they've got the 3 lines. They got the unvaccinated, never had it. Then under that, they've got the fully vaccinated, right? And then way at the bottom, they've got, and they're like basically one line on top of the other, right? The previously infected plus vaccinated, and the previously infected plus unvaccinated. So if you've been previously infected, and I'm not, because it would be retarded, right, to say, wow, go out and get intentionally infected to protect yourself with natural immunity from a potentially deadly virus that could kill you with your initial infection. Okay? Like, nobody's saying that. But if you've already had it, getting vaccinated does nothing. It magically makes you as immune as you already were.
But we can't say that because that's misinformation, even though it's coming from official sources. Nobody, here's the thing: there's no understanding of what misinformation is anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Not under whatsoever. I mean, you can look at the CDC. I can look at the Canadian health website. You can even see what the pharma execs are saying, but you can't quote them because now there's this party line, which came from apparently nowhere, that the jab is effective against transmission, and if it isn't effective against transmission, it keeps you out of the hospital, and that's that. And having talked to these people, I realize that it has nothing to do with any of this.
I'm just like, what about mandatory stomach stapling for the obese?
This is
to keep them out of hospital. I mean, would that be okay?
No, none of this is okay, but this isn't about health. It isn't about the public good. It's about a feeling of belonging. And what I've noticed, and I think that's why it's always the same group of people. They have the weird hair, they have the pronouns, they have all this look at me, pay attention to me.
Yeah.
Because
they belong to a group.
They want to belong. I mean, it's all gang colors. Because they are desperate for a sense of belonging, and it's sort of sad, but putting this stuff in their body has become a marker of belonging to a greater community.
Oh God, the people who get tattoos, Pfizer, Moderna.
Are you fucking? Oh my God.
Oh no, there are people who get tattoos to commemorate their vaccination. Like, and my mom, she got fully vaccinated. I drove her to her and my dad to their appointments and everything. My dad passed away in November, not from COVID. But I drove them to their appointments in January and early February last year. And, like for them, it made sense, right? For me, it didn't, right? And my sister, okay, here's the thing. So my sister calls me in like freaking March or April or some shit, right? And she's like, so AstraZeneca just got approved for our age group, so you gonna get vaccinated? And I'm like, no. And she's like, but why not? And I'm like, because I already had COVID isn't that why I was the one who was burdened with taking care of our parents for the last fucking more than a year? Right? Driving them everywhere they needed to go, lifting heavy objects for them, all of that shit, right? Because I was allegedly safe because I couldn't get it and I couldn't give it to them, right? So there I am going over once a week to like change their light bulbs and fix their pop-up drains and assemble their flat pack furniture and frickin' carry their groceries upstairs and help them frickin' unclog their frickin' toilets and all of that shit, right? That was on me because you couldn't do it because you never had any idea whether you had it or not because you hadn't had it before, and so you were not safe, right? And so I was safe enough for the last more than a year. Why do I need to get vaccinated? She's like, well, because you'd be more protected. And I'm like, I'm already 6 times more protected than you are, right? If you're double vaccinated. I'm already 6 times more protected than they are, right? It's according to all of the freaking data coming out of Israel and every other place that actually looks into this, right? 6 times minimum more protected. She's like, but why wouldn't you want to, like, I read that you could be like even more protected. I'm like, why do I have to be more than 6 times more protected than you to be safe? Why is that a thing? Why? And then she's like, okay, well, fine. But if you end up in the ICU with COVID on a ventilator, I won't be able to come visit you, right? And I'm like, okay, bitch, all the evidence says that if you get reinfected, it's always more mild than the original infection. I didn't end up in the hospital the first time, so what the fuck is your problem? And number 2, I assume you'd be vaccinated, so you'd be protected. So why wouldn't you visit me? Then she yells, I can't talk to you about this anymore, and hung up. They're not making any sense, is what I'm saying. Nobody's making any fucking sense.
No. It's just like the same shit we've dealt with the feminists. It's just like absolutely no sense, except, honestly, I think I prefer the feminist no sense. Because you could see the logic behind it, right? And you know that they don't believe it. They're just a bunch of conners, and you can respect the level of audacity to pull off this kind of a jape. In a way, you'd have some respect for your enemy in this instance, because it's a certain amount of skill, especially the skill to fake it so believably and somehow fake it while grinning like you're grinning like the cat ate the canary. So every time we look at these feminist things, the same exact expression every single time. Cat that ate the canary. They're spouting this bullshit, and it's because they know that it's bullshit, but they're lying, but they're getting what they want out of people. They're getting people to do what they want. So they're engaging in a con. That's what a con is, and they know it. But you could sort of respect that. It's like it's an honest, and inside, like, it's honest insofar as something. At least they're getting something out of it. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? It's like you know that they're benefiting themselves. And there's a certain honesty to that. Just like, I'm just getting mine. I'm just getting mine. But this is a whole level of cultish insanity. That's
it's insane. Okay, so so for 15 months after I had COVID, right? I had tachycardia and tachypnea, which is racing heart, racing breath, right? Every time I lay down to go to bed for about 3 months. From the time that I recovered for about 15 months, I had severe hypertension. I had arrhythmia. Arrhythmia is bad enough to wake me up from a sound sleep. And then you lie in the dark and you count to like 8, 9. Like, are you gonna start up again, heart? Like, are you gonna Oh, okay, yeah, okay. I guess you are, right? And then palpitations anytime I exerted myself. So like carrying a basket of laundry up the stairs. I used to carry my compound miter saw up the stairs, right? Carrying a basket of laundry up the stairs would give me palpitations, right? 15 months of this. 15 fucking months of this. And then I get people saying I'm being selfish for not wanting to subject myself to a second dose of spike protein. Right? Because it's the spike protein that does this to you. That's why you can get myocarditis and pericarditis and tachycardia and tachypnea and like hypertension and aneurysm and blood clots and all kinds of cardiovascular symptoms. Rarely, yes, but you can get them from the vaccine because the only thing in common between the virus and the vaccine is the spike protein, right? So it's the spike protein that's causing this, right? And they're like, well, you're selfish for not taking another dose of the shit that fucked you up. Okay.
Yeah.
And because you are only 5 times as immune as I am as a responsible vaccinated person, and therefore you shouldn't be allowed to go into a restaurant. You shouldn't be allowed to go to a sporting event. You should maybe even be barred from shopping in a big box retailer, right? You should have to mask up or get fired, right? And show a negative antigen test if you want to go to work twice a week at your own expense, $100 a week, right? For you to pay to prove that you're not infected, to go to work, right? And you have to do all of this, right? And I'm like, because why? Because why? Right? Because and you're like, and they're like, because you're gonna, when you get it again, right? When you get reinfected, you're gonna end up in the emergency room, you're gonna end up in the ICU. And it's like, yeah, if I get the freaking vaccine and I end up having a heart attack, right? Are you gonna begrudge me the ICU bed?
Did we play more of the video?
Really sure.
Sorry, yeah, we're way off in the weeds, but it's just like I'm seeing so many fucking parallels.
Yeah,
yep.
There are. Yes.
Like I said, I can at least respect the audacity and the self-interest of feminists. Not this one, because this one I'm pretty sure self-interest is not monetary or even just control. I'm pretty sure
she's sliding off her stool. Yeah,
she's sliding off her stool, and I don't like that. Okay, that's where I draw the line. That's where I'm like, yeah, no, there's nothing I can respect about you. The insanity I see I think it's just driven by a desire to belong. And this has become like a ritual of belonging. And it's a little scary because this is not science. We'll get comments on this, but the fact is that there should be no bias or stigma to questioning the efficacy of these jabs. None whatsoever. Or the safety. There shouldn't be, because the long-term studies were not concluded. We were put into those long-term studies, and there should never have been this level of opprobrium against anybody who questions them, because how are we supposed to find out whether or not they're safe? And I knew starting into this, I looked at this, I'm like, this is going to turn into a clusterfuck. And the reason why it's going to turn into a clusterfuck is because everybody's going to hang their hat on this being the solution, and then nobody will be able to question that. And once you can't question a conclusion like these jabs work and they're safe, that's not science, because science is about falsification. Falsification. So the only people who are actually engaging in real science are the ones who are questioning. Hypothesis.
Oh, here's the thing too, right? Because somebody put in a FOIA request for the FDA to turn over all of its documentation that it based its emergency use authorization for the Pfizer vaccine, right? So turn it over, right? And the FDA said no. And then so it went to court, and the judge ordered the FDA to turn over all of the documentation it used to base its emergency use authorization of the Pfizer vaccine on. And the FDA said, get this, they said, oh, well, we're very short-staffed, and we can only actually review and process about 500 pages a month. So there are 450,000 pages of data related to this emergency use authorization. So we're going to need between 55 and 75 years to actually release it all to the public. They literally argued this in court. Okay. And I'm sitting there thinking, Pfizer applied for its emergency use authorization on November 20th, 2020, and it was granted the emergency use authorization December 23rd, 2020. So you had 1 month and 3 days. It took you 1 month and 3 days to sufficiently and meticulously and thoroughly review these 450,000 pages of data to approve this vaccine. Took you 1 month and 3 days. It's going to take you 55 to 75 years to be able to review it such that it can be released to the public. What? What?
Yeah, that's a little bit suspicious. Like, and I've asked people that. I mean, like, is none of this making you curious? And here's the other thing that I haven't got an answer to, and you might like this, Karen. People need to give up their bodily autonomy and their rights to fight against COVID, but Big Pharma doesn't have to give up their profits.
Oh, or they don't have to actually be exposed to any kind of legal liability.
Yeah. So they don't have to be. They don't have to be.
The only actual immunity that these vaccines grant is legal immunity to the vaccine manufacturers. Oh God. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, you know, I'm not saying that getting infected is preferable to being vaccinated. If you've never been infected, right, and you're in a high risk group, you're over 50, or you have some comorbidities or whatever, right? You should consider it. Absolutely, right? But like, we literally have here's the death rates of 0 to 5-year-olds per 100,000 cases. 0 to 5-year-olds, 0. 5 to 18-year-olds, 0. 18 to 29-year-olds, 0 per 100,000. 29 to 39-year-olds, 0.03 per 100,000. Why are these people being forced to be vaccinated?
To save grandma, who they may not even have in contact with.
But they're not saving grandma because it doesn't prevent infection or spread.
Well, this is the thing, and you know what? We are not talking about. We need to go back to Laura Bates. Okay.
Oh my God, I can't stand her. I'd rather talk about this other bullshit.
Yeah. She actually triggers a lot of.
Oh, she's so passé. She's so like last century. I'm sorry, but like there are other things now that are more important than Laura Bates and her freaking little girl freaking masturbatory freaking bullshit.
All right, let's do some more.
All right, let's do some more.
But although they're closely connected and they have a kind of complex ecosystem, they are quite distinct communities within there. So they range from so-called incels, or involuntary celibates, men who believe that they aren't having sex because women deny it, because they believe that they have an inherent entitlement to sex as men.
What?
Nobody says that.
No, of course they do.
Rejection.
Like Elliot Rogers says that, but all the incels on Wizard Chan were telling all the incels on Wizard Chan were telling him to chill the fuck out.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, he was frustrated. I get it, but he didn't actually.
No, and
like,
mentally ill. Mentally ill.
Yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
the
He
supreme
was
gentleman.
abused
I'm
by
the
his
supreme
stepmother,
gentleman.
and his father wasn't there for him. He had a bunch of problems. Nobody cared. At least that's how we felt.
Oh, and he was on. Here's the thing too. He was diagnosed with autism. Okay, and they put him on antipsychotics. And I'm like, what?
Can I just blow this
that's
up?
That's the best example they have.
Can I blow that? Can I know Elliot Rodger and all of his but here's the problem with her argument. She's probably talking about incel forums. So she'll go to incel forums, once again disguising herself as a minor boy in order to talk to minor boys about sexual matters. And of course that would go over so well if she was a man doing that with underage girls. But regardless, setting that aside, did she miss all of the incels talking about looks maxing? You know, and she says they feel like they're entitled to sex, and yet what do they talk about? They talk about trying to maximize their appeal to women.
Yeah.
Does that no?
Yeah, no. When you jump through hoops to try to get women to be willing to have sex with you, that doesn't indicate a sense of entitlement.
Yeah, you dumb. Not only is she acting in this horrible way, this horribly predatory way to underage boys or frustrated young men, she's lying about them.
Mm-hmm.
She's lying about them.
Oh, there's
pushing this particular sexual fantasy that she has.
There's a handful of young men who are like, I deserve all the sex I want for no effort. Yeah, okay. And everybody in the incel forums are like, what the fuck? What the fuck are you on about? Like, are you even listening to yourself? Like, you're a fat slob with acne, right? Who doesn't bathe. And you can't even be bothered to brush your hair. I mean, like, I'm gonna say it. There's this one trans person that I know who, started talking about how she thinks feminism is TERFs are about forming a cartel around and a monopoly around estrogenized bodies, right, in order to cut trans women out of sexual opportunities. And I was like, have you looked at yourself in the mirror, right? Because you're not Theron Meyer. You're not, what's her name? Freaking,
Blair
the
White.
one I'm talking. Yeah, Blair White. You're not Blair White. You are basically someone who got out of bed and didn't even brush their hair before leaving the house. And you're 400 pounds. So I don't think the TERFs see you as competition, sexual competition. I just don't. I don't.
Yeah, sure.
Like, I'm just like, let's be realistic here, right? And she's saying that all of these young men who are like, well, how do I make myself more attractive to women? How do I actually, try to gain the attraction of a woman? How do I do that, right? And like, it's literally like that feminist who was like, oh my God, mystery cracked the code, right? And now that means he's rapey.
Yeah. Of course. Okay. But who are the ones that are saying, if you don't have sex with me despite your tastes, you're a bigot? Is it the incels?
Oh no, it's certain elements of the trans community.
Yeah, I was gonna say the G mafia, not like trans people, but the G mafia.
Yeah, and certain feminists, yeah.
Yeah, there's usually the Venn diagram is almost a perfect
Yeah, the
circle.
body positivity movement. If
Yeah,
you aren't
body
willing to
positive
have
feminist,
sex with a fat woman, then you're a bigot.
Yeah. Incels, that now, how is that not entitlement? But anyway.
Oh my god.
Let us continue.
Oh,
so
God.
that's the incels.
They believe that women should be punished for this denial of their sexual birthright, if you like.
Oh God, how she frames that. I'm sorry, it's just so retarded.
And they congregate and swap tips and advice on raping women.
Yeah, but do they touch tips? Because I don't think that's gay.
It's only gay. It's only gay if you have a foreskin.
It's only gay if you dock it in. But as long as you're not,
as long as you're just rubbing the tips.
A little fender bender is okay.
Yeah.
It's not,
Yeah.
The irony is
no, but
insane.
It's like booping. It's like booping the nose of a dog. That's all.
Well, I mean, why would she want to challenge the narrative that gives her access to underage boys?
Oh my god.
Why would she want her pool to dry up?
Yeah.
I'm just
go ahead.
I'm just blown away by this, like their birthright, their sexual birthright. And it's like at birth nobody's thinking about sex. And the only people that I know who are generally thinking about sex when their kids are born are people who are like, yeah, cut part of his dick off. Because that'll make him more attractive to picky, entitled fucking American women.
Yep.
Who aren't interested in an aardvark in a turtleneck.
A day of retribution when they dream of incels rising up and massacring and murdering young women who fail to sleep with them.
Odd. Well, I'm just gonna move on. There's nothing really to say to this.
This is Menace, and she's like, okay, so he talked about the Chads and Stacy's on Facebook before he rammed his fucking van into a crowd of completely diverse people of both sexes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then
Okay.
there are pickup artists. So the pickup artist industry globally is a $100 million industry that operates in almost every country in the world with absolutely no oversight.
Yeah, no, it's not like
have
feminism,
any
which is a multi-$100 billion industry.
Yeah, right.
Jesus fuck.
And I don't even know, like, are there still POAs still call themselves POA? I don't. I guess there are.
I don't. Well, I'm sure Roisi and like Hertiste and freaking various people in that movement still call themselves pickup artists, or claim that they were once pickup artists, but now they've settled down. What's his name? The one that I interviewed.
Roosh V?
Roosh V. Yeah, he's like, yeah, I've settled down, I'm not a PUA anymore. I'm red pilled. I'm like a traditionalist. And it's like, okay, well, that's great. Maybe it would have been good if you tried to like use your voice to promote pairing up permanently as opposed to just like slutting it up while you can, whether you're a man or a woman, right? Yeah, like it's okay, but it's like, okay, so you wised up, you actually like freaking grew up and you started to understand how like your approach to things is actually detrimental. Your previous approach was detrimental to society and your own psychological health. But it's a little bit rich for you now to be like, well, I want to marry a virgin. Like, you've deflowered how many women?
Good luck with that.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, Yeah, I'm just she's you know what? I'm just gonna leave it. I'm just gonna play more. She may have been a little behind on her terminology because I don't know if the PUA thing is still a thing or if it's all kind of moved towards a general red pill, you know. But that doesn't really matter, right? It's not like she's all about accuracy and properly.
No.
I mean, she just said incels are basically, you know, the body positive fat pride movement. So
Yeah.
In non-COVID times, in pretty much any major city in the world, a man can pay several $1,000s on pretty much any given weekend to be trained in, if essentially sexually harassing and at worst, sexually assaulting women.
Yeah, right.
Once again, this is a woman who has access to the UK educational system, grants her access to have a captive audience of underage boys to which she describes, essentially sexualizes, and describes their sexual malfeasance. And also, she has openly admitted to pretending to be a underage boy or a young man on forums designed for young men to talk about their sexuality. Openly admitted to that. And she's turning around and saying, oh, look at how, and this is something that the UK educational system supports. She probably gets money to do this. That is astounding.
Yeah, she's raking in the cash. Are you kidding me?
That's freaking astounding. And the way that, like, we went through her, remember we went through her novel about all of this
stuff?
Her erotic novel on this?
Yeah.
Remember how
her Harlequin romance?
Remember how she was like she would describe this stuff and I was like, what are you a phone sex operator? You know, like what is this?
Yeah.
You remember that?
Oh, and yeah.
This is definitely sexual to her.
Oh, yeah.
And nobody has called her out on it. And then she has the audacity to turn around and say that pickup artists, and yes, I've looked at these forums, sexual harassment, they're not trying to make women uncomfortable. They are literally trying to make them comfortable.
Yeah.
And they talk about negging. Well, here's the thing about negging.
It works. It works.
It works. And you know why it works? Because women are made much more uncomfortable by a man who is...
Your hair is like a river. I respect you so much.
Yeah, that makes women uncomfortable. You know why it makes them uncomfortable? Because it is actually creepy.
Yeah, it's weird.
It's weird and it's creepy. Whereas when you just do something teasing or offhand, you don't look so the simping behavior makes you look desperate for something from her. Yep. And then women get leery of that because they're worried that you're so desperate. What are you going to do? Whereas a guy who just throws off an offhand teasing comment doesn't look like the kind of guy, ironically, who would be so desperate to do something should you be in his, you know, like giving off that vibe of a lack
he's the guy who can take no for an answer. Yeah.
Yes. He's the guy who can take no for an answer. And he's also the guy who isn't trying to manipulate you into a situation where you are uncomfortable with. Because he's already, if he's willing to lose, like the teasing demonstrates he's not putting you. I'm failing at explaining this.
No. It's intuitive. It's
intuitive. It's difficult to explain, but if somebody teases you, it doesn't feel like they're after something.
Yeah, no, it's like when my husband he used to say what before we were like together before we were like solid together. He used to say, sometimes I listen to that Buck Cherry song, Crazy Bitch, and I just replace crazy with lazy, and that's you, you know. But you fuck so good, I'm on top of it. And I'm like, okay, I can live with that.
Yeah.
I can live with that.
Teasing doesn't teasing. You're right. It's like teasing makes a man not appear desperate.
Yeah.
And it makes him not appear what is the word? Like clingy, but more disturbing.
Oh God, just like desperate, clinging.
Desperate, but also just like not cloying. Cloying is close, but just that quality of desperation and compulsion.
Yeah,
Okay?
yeah.
Men who tease women don't give off that quality, so they feel simultaneously a little bit more socially dangerous, but also safer.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what they're trying to go for. They're trying to hit that level of comfort of being slightly dangerous because you don't know what he's going to do, so he's interesting, but comfortable because you know that a guy
what he's not going to do is like freaking jump on you and rape you because he's just that desperate.
Yes, exactly.
And obsessed with you. With you, or obsessed with anyone who,
or just obsessed with sex, basically.
Sex, yeah.
So that's what they're trying to, and that's generating comfort. So pickup artists are trying to teach men how to generate comfort in women while retaining a sense of being slightly dangerous. And I don't mean dangerous in terms of being raped, but dangerous in terms of what's he going to do? What is he going to say next? Or how is he going to surprise me? Or how is he going to intrigue me? That kind of quality.
Yep.
It's like she's taking a group of men who are specifically trying to generate comfort in women, specifically trying to generate consent in women, and saying, oh, that's not trying to generate consent or comfort. And of course she doesn't identify that because she goes into rooms of young, vulnerable minors and she inflicts her sexual self on them. And when they resist, she tries to make that into something the government should stop them from doing.
Yeah.
What a surprise that Laura Bates really struggles with a demonstration of trying to generate comfort and consent and desire and interest.
Yeah.
Because, she don't want to respect that. We're going to use the buzzwords to condemn it.
All right, let's see if we can get to the point where she describes she describes MGTOW and MRAs.
By an industry whose leading lights are men who have themselves boasted about rape, who have advocated that rape should be legalized on public property.
Private property.
Private property. And it was, oh Jesus fuck. Even if it was not a thought experiment, even if it was an actual proposal, the motivation behind it was if we did this, women would be more concerned about their safety and they wouldn't go up to men's apartments and then end up accusing Mike Tyson of raping them. Even though it was understood in the elevator that this is what you're going up here for.
Right.
So we're in the belief systems of these different groups, but of course they have very different territory. Then you've got men going their own way. This is a group of men who believe women to be so toxic and dangerous and damaging that the only solution is to cut them out of your life altogether.
And I guess you don't want them to be able to do that? You want to force MGTOWs to associate with women while also trying to convince us that MGTOW are dangerous to women? I mean, it's retarded. Like like if there's someone who's bigoted on anything, you could be, I don't like trannies, I don't like, gays, I don't like women, I don't like whatever, black people. So your proposal is if they say, I don't like these groups and I just don't want to be around them and I'm going to go live over here separate from everyone else and not associate with these people who I hate, even if they have like a burning, deep-seated hatred. But their solution is, I'm just not going to associate with those people. How the fuck does it make any sense that you would say, no, you have to hang out with them, you have to be around them, you have to hire them, you know, if you own a business, you have to work for them, you have to be exposed to them all the time. Here, look at this, look at these two men making out on the street corner. Look at that and enjoy it. Like, that doesn't make any sense. And yet, this is what she is saying. MGTOW they are dangerous to women, they hate women.
Because, yeah, they're dangerous to women
around them.
Yeah, they don't want any, they're dangerous to women because they don't want anything to do with women. And it's like, you know, like most MGTOW that I know have managed to find women that, you know, they can be with.
Obviously, MGTOW don't actually, a lot of them really want to be with women. Like even the most
they're just mad about, they're mad about this.
They're mad about the situation and the system.
It's like Barry. He was like one of the first things he ever said to me. Barry, who was part of Men's Rights Edmonton, one of the founding members, right? Yeah. And one of the first things he said to me was, you know, when he was a kid, and people would ask him, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" Right? He didn't say race car driver or astronaut or football star or, you know, hockey player. He said husband and father, right? Yeah. And he was really angry about the fact that the system was such that he didn't feel safe doing that.
Yep.
Right? So it's like, this is not about him not liking women. This is not about him hating women. This is about him wanting to have had that thing, which is a wife and a family, right? Children, the whole bit. Be the husband, be the provider and the protector, and be the person who, you know, takes out the trash and does all of those sort of mundane tasks that men do to support their families and provide for their families. That's what he wanted, and he was just like, it just doesn't feel safe to do that. And he was really mad about that. And that's not about being mad at women. That's about being mad at the situation, at the system, at the overall circumstances. And
absolutely.
And I just felt really bad for him because he, like, I could tell that when he was telling me this, it was just like, that's like really, really freaking, like, that's totally sincere, right?
Yeah.
Sure. What he was telling me, and I hope he's doing okay.
Yeah, I hope so too. I never met him, but I hope he's okay. But anyway, so that's her comments on MGTOW. So I think it's really revealing, because this is not an unusual position that feminists have on the whole MGTOW thing. They legitimately do not believe that MGTOW should be allowed to walk away. But
should be allowed to, like, not associate with.
Yeah, but they also simultaneously believe that they are dangerous to women.
Yeah.
Well, she also like I mean, why wouldn't this be consistent with her attitude that she wants captive groups of underage children to sexualize?
Oh my God.
Well, it's not inconsistent to that, no. Anyway.
Am I putting too strong a point on it? Because maybe I am.
I think we get it.
Yeah, good.
I think we get it, Alison. I think we're all, yes, Laura Bates, predatory. I think we got that.
She wants men to do what she wants them to do. That's really what it is.
But that's what feminists want. They don't really want men to not associate with women. They just want to control men, and they want men to defer to them. And they don't even want men to necessarily defer to women generally. They want men to defer to these women, and these women also want women to defer to these women.
Really? I had no idea.
Yeah, I know. I don't know why you would have suspected that.
makes it sound rather niche or ridiculous, but in each of these cases, in each of the cases of the communities I'm describing, I've uncovered a complex network, a sort of ecosystem of blogs, websites, forums, communities, private
You haven't
social media
discovered.
groups.
What?
You're not living. She's like, I've discovered. You haven't discovered anything.
Yeah, it's like
just to be seen.
I mean, it was always there. Yeah, it's. I mean, like I can make the case for Christopher Columbus making a discovery because he was like, well, I don't know what's over there. I'm gonna go look. But this was everybody, like, it was always there.
Just sitting out in the
channels,
open.
chat rooms, forums, and each of these, we're talking about each individual sort of link in the chain, if you like, often having membership numbering in the tens or hundreds of thousands of members.
That's nearly not enough. Not nearly enough. We want billions of men, at least getting useful information.
Without
I
taking
want
into account
every
the number of
I want every single teenage boy in the UK that's subjected to Laura Bates to express his discomfort at being sexualized by her.
Yeah.
And that's my goal.
Go
Do
on
it to your
to a forum.
administration of your school.
Yeah.
look at and consume this content without being a member. We're talking about a single one of these hundreds of websites having in the tens of millions of conversations and comments and chats going on. Then you've got...
Okay, so anyway, now let's go on to MRAs.
Men's rights activists, again, a distinct but connected group who claim to care about men and their needs and problems affecting men, but in fact devote their time and energy exclusively to attacking and undermining women and feminism in particular.
Okay. All right. So the fact that feminism attacks men is irrelevant.
Yeah.
Like, seriously, I don't attack feminists when they're just like, doing things other than attacking men or presenting stereotypes about men or gendering non-gendered social ills in order to implicate men as part of some kind of vast conspiracy against women, or promoting the idea that men would construct anywhere, anytime, a system of oppression of women. All of this stuff is psychologically harmful to men, and I call it out. And whenever you guys go up on your podiums and start your song and dance about, how you're justified in abusing men, I call you out for being abusers. And then you call that attacking. Well, I guess I attack you. Because you attack first. Like, that's the thing. It's like, and they're like, well, you're anti-feminist. Well,
how can you not be at this point, right?
How can you not?
Help?
Yeah, you don't allow men any space to exist outside of what you say they are. And you say that you have the most unpleasant view of men. That they are responsible for rape. They are responsible for all kind of social ills that are non-gendered. They're responsible for a society that hates women. That somehow in the 1960s, feminism invented men caring about women. So suddenly men would actually listen to women for the first time in all of human history.
Uh-huh.
And it's like everything you do is appalling bullshit. Attacking you, and I don't even call it attacking, because I don't use insults, or I very rarely use insults. All I do is call out the illogic. So countering you is a service to humanity. I'm just saying.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's like, basically it literally is like that meme, right, where the feminist is shoveling shit over the wall, and then when people shovel it back at her, she's like, misogyny.
Yeah, classic meme.
Yeah.
Okay, let us.
Yeah, can I just have one more thing? Okay,
sure.
if feminists really promoted equality, why aren't they treating Laura Bates in the same way they would treat a man with the same interests, shall we say?
Yeah, I know.
They're
I know.
not being held to the same standard.
No,
No.
of course not.
I do have thank yous, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Do we have any super chats?
Yeah, I have some super chats. So, Binary Eclipse gives us $5 Australian and says, a society that can't honor and respect the hard work and sacrifices of its men is a profoundly sick society.
Yes.
Yes, it is. Thomas Dean gives us $4.99 and says, I had the coof a couple weeks ago. Would not have realized except my mom told me I should take a home test. I was like, oh, I thought it was a cold, lol. Yeah, probably.
Well, it was Omicron, and Omicron is like, if you actually look at the CDC's numbers for Omicron, there was a study that it was a UC Berkeley, the CDC, and Kaiser Permanente in the US and Southern California looked at 27,000 cases or 17,000 cases of Delta and 52,000 cases of Omicron that were occurring at the same time and compared them. And conveniently, if you multiply 17,000 by 3, that's 52,000. So if you looked at it as in 52,000 confirmed cases of each, right, you would have had 666 Delta cases showing up to hospital compared to 235 Omicron cases. You would have had 567 Delta cases admitted to hospital compared to 88 Omicron cases. You would have had 33 people with Delta put on ventilators compared to 0 Omicron cases, and 42 Delta cases dying compared to 1 Omicron case. And then if you actually take the Omicron numbers and you compare them against the CDC's flu burden statistics from any recent flu season, right? And you compare it with like the number of infections, and we're talking like even just comparing confirmed cases, not number of infections, because the number of infections are actually much higher than the confirmed cases, but confirmed number of infections, estimated infections, and then hospitalizations and deaths from flu in a given flu season. If you compare that against just the confirmed cases of Omicron, you're looking at like 1/10 the burden of the seasonal flu in any given flu season. So, Omicron's turning out to be the ticket out of this pandemic, and I just don't understand. I just don't understand. The Brits and the Danes, right? They've said, okay, like we're getting rid of all of our restrictions because this is everybody's going to get Omicron. Everybody's going to get it, basically, because it's just that transmissible, but it's very mild. It's going to clog up our hospitals for about maybe 8 weeks. And then it's going to be over. Everybody's going to have polyvalent immunity to all the different variants, right? And then we just move on and we get back to normal. And yet Canada is like, now we need curfews and we need more restrictions and we need more this and more that. And the United States is like, no, we need to force employers with over 100 employees to mandate vaccination, and all of this other crap. And it's just like, I'm just like, why? Why are we doing this? Like, because I've had Omicron. Natural immunity is no defense against Omicron. Neither is vaccination. You're going to get it. Everybody's going to get it. My sister, triple vaccinated, N95 wearing sister, she got it, right? She got it 1 week after I got it. I never wear a mask anywhere, right? And so it's just like, and I never go anywhere. I go to the grocery store. I go to the pharmacy. That's it.
All right. And you can if
everybody's gonna get it.
Karen says it, then that's that.
It is. This is like the.
No, I agree. I agree.
Is the data. Right?
This is how we get out. But again,
and they could literally say we didn't make any mistakes. We didn't overreact. All of these previous variants were very, 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 very bad, and we had to take the measures we did. But now we're in this room. Now we're in the Omicron room, and here's the data. Here's the science about this variant that is the only game in town right now. And so we're changing our policies in respect of that, and we don't have to admit we fucked anything up, right? And they could do that, but they're not doing it.
Oh, Karen, it's worse than that. I mean, the thing is that you'd have to kill the golden calf that has been born from this. Good luck. Like,
I'm just like, why aren't they, like, UK is doing it, Denmark's doing it, New South Wales in Australia is doing it. They were just like, let her rip. Like, no more restrictions, let her rip. Right? And they were like, yeah, our hospitals were kind of full, but, we could handle it.
Thank you for that super chat, Thomas Steen. Albernated Retro gives us $10 Canadian and says, she has an itch she can't scratch. Send to me, I'll loan her my scratching post. The next time you hear her, she'll be red-pilled and...
Yeah.
Oh. Weird flex,
well,
but okay.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, like, I'm sorry, but like Laura Bates makes my penis turn away like a magnet that's basically against the same pole.
Like a dowsing rod.
Yeah, I have no interest. No, I don't even see
turns to one side.
Something female. There's something reptilian on the screen. So no thanks. Sorry, I don't know. Maybe that's your taste. That's fine. Personally, I'm cringing a lot on the inside.
You ever notice something about these feminists is like there's a lot of whites of their eyes.
Yeah.
Like the amount of space in their eyes that is taken up by the whites is like very large.
Yeah. Thunderstorm gives us $4.99 and says, feminism to me feels like someone took Marx and Engels' works and switched classes and races for men and boys with copy. Well, yeah, all of this stuff works like that. I mean, we can get into a chicken or egg argument as to which thing is older, but I think the instinct to protect women is older than anything else, and it's super useful. So, yes, Thunderstorm, you.
Well, it's super useful in conditions of danger and scarcity. In conditions where everybody has access to welfare and social programs, not so much.
Right. So anyway, thank you for the super chat. Alison's having some technical issues. We're going to play the rest of this section on MRAs, and I think that'll be the end of this.
It's trying to fund frontline sexual violence services, that sort of thing. And then you have trolls.
Oh, so the men's rights activists are trying to defund women's services.
Yeah,
so,
no.
Of course that's not happening, but what are MRAs asking? Well, if you're going to give these services to women, we should also give these services to men. So why do feminists think that this is being taken from them? Well, because there is a pool of funding that feminists currently have a monopoly on, and they don't want to give any of it up. And that's really all it is.
And then people like Mark Angelucci would go and sue them under equal rights, equality legislation and UNRWA in California and say, you're discriminating against men. And if you continue to discriminate against men, you should have all of your state funding and federal funding withdrawn. And then they're like, he wants to defund women's services. And it's like, no, that's, he only sued you and made the threat of withdrawing your funding under the law as required by law because you're discriminating against men. I miss Mark Angelucci.
Also, I mean, there's something else going on. Once we recognize male victims of something, we lose sympathy for the victims entirely. That's a human nature thing that, you know, I'm pretty sure feminists are probably very aware of. So they know what they're doing. They know they have to exclude male victims because, and this is where the average human being comes in. The average human being, when we start talking about issues of gender, has all the brain power of a chimp.
Yeah.
Okay? That's the honest to God truth. They cannot handle the idea that men are victims of things. They can't handle the idea that women are not victims of things because the statements that we make don't hit all those lovely buttons, all those dopamine surges in their brain, whereas the statements that feminists make do. And feminists essentially function as a hyperstimulus response. It's why and this is why, in some ways, I respect feminists because they know what they're doing. They're very clever manipulators of human stupidity or human instinct, maybe is the better way to put it.
Human vulnerability. Yeah.
Human vulnerability. And it's harder to have respect for their victims because their victims are people who have no control over themselves, no rational understanding of what they're doing, no self-awareness. They're men who cannot overcome getting their identities triggered by the idea of saving a woman. And ironically, the men that I've noticed who are like this are some of the least likable men I've ever met.
Oh yeah,
the guys who are just like, I don't play that game, actually tend to be men I respect more. Yep. Because they tend to actually be more self-conscious, more self-aware. You know, the guys who are actually recognize women's moral agency tend to just be better guys to be around.
Yeah.
But you know, the other ones are just being triggered. But that's what feminists do. They are manipulating something that already exists. They didn't invent this shit. You think that feminists somehow genetically modified the human race to care about women? Are you nuts?
Yeah.
Like, no.
Yeah, no, and
hit your buttons.
And the biggest con is convincing each generation that the previous generation didn't care about women.
Yeah, that's like it's like convincing them that they're the first generation to invent sex. Where do you think you came from?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. How do you think your mother probably lived longer than your father? How do you think your grandmother probably lived longer than your grandmother or your grandfather?
Yeah.
You know, these things don't just fall out of the sky.
Yeah.
We didn't just invent all of this in the 60s. Or now the 60s is the great dark ages of women's oppression.
Yeah, I know.
It's always a moving target. It's always like one generation before. So now the 90s are the big dark ages of women's oppression. No, I lived through the 90s. The 90s were not a dark age of women's oppression. Neither were the 80s.
Yeah,
and I suspect the 70s weren't either.
I remember this one woman. She did a big historical research project into Victorian fathers, right? So fathers in the Victorian era, and you know the Victorian father, he had the reputation of being cold and distant, and children are to be seen and not heard, and present me my children dressed properly twice a day so I can inspect them as if they're military soldiers, and then shoo them back off to the governess and all of this, right?
Yeah, but that's like the upper class. Like,
no, weird. But she actually went, she based all of her research on the diaries of children who grew up in the Victorian era, and she was just like, from kids in working class families, kids in like dirt poor families, kids in upper class families, kids in all kinds of families, right? They had an extreme sense of fondness and warmth toward their fathers, right? Almost universally, their fathers, they saw them as a presence in the home, as wanting to help them grow up strong and intelligent and educated and interested in helping them succeed and all of those things, right? And she even said, one of the things that she found over and over again was she exemplified it with this one anecdote where this dad comes home from work, working class dad comes home from work, and the mother is like, you need to take that boy into that bedroom and beat his ass because he's been terrible all day, right? And the kid, right, writes that, so my dad and I went into my room and he had me hold on to he had me sit on the bed. He closed the door, had me sit on the bed, and then he whipped the bedpost with his belt while I yelled out to trick my mother into thinking he was whipping me. And then we went and had dinner, kind of feeling like we'd gotten away with some.
And that's the era of horrible female oppression as well.
Horrible female oppression and horrible fathers, abusive fathers and abusive husbands, right? And they were just like, she was just like, this kind of story was just like replete throughout all of these diaries, where the mother would demand that the father discipline the child, and the father would try and figure out some way to be able to kind of fake it.
Yeah. Well, I'm not surprised. Oops. Women, I was saying that women are the majority of child abusers. I accidentally hit a button.
Yeah, women are the majority of child abusers.
If I was a feminist and accidentally hit a button, a whole bunch of men would have just fallen in a pit to save women or something.
Right.
Well, what I'm saying is like you have this situation where it's like all those men over there hate their women and hurt their women, and all those men back then hated their women and hurt their women, and all those men even before that, they also hated their women and hurt their women, and all these men over here in this other group that self-identifies as something, they hate their women and hurt their women. And you know what you know about all these men that aren't me? They hate and hurt their women.
But everywhere that you see isn't the case.
Yeah, no, me. Oh, no, I would never,
not me,
ever, ever.
Not the men of my group. Or
no, my group. Yeah, no, we totally respect women, and we think that they're great. And if they never want to have sex with us, we're okay with that. And we would never even masturbate to them because that would be exploitative.
Okay. And this isn't just exploiting people's natural propensity to provide and protect for women. You know what was really interesting? Because I've been listening to, I think I can go on this tangent because we should probably stop this at the hour. I do have to make some thank yous.
We should stop this actually like pretty quick because.
Yeah. Okay. But I know Brian has super chats. I was going to talk about the Italian Renaissance, and of course, every time you read about.
And do that inside the Italian Senate like Tifa and Cloud?
I don't understand that reference, so I'm going to
it's not really obscure, but never mind. All right, so yeah. Can I finish the super chats and then or
let me thank them first.
Okay.
The real Tom H. I'm not going to use your. I presume that's a last name. Maybe it isn't. In which case, I'm sorry, but I don't want to risk doxing you. The real Tom H. gave us $25, so thank you, the real Tom.
All right.
It's a parade. It's a parade.
Tominator 9000, which I hope isn't your legal name, gave us $25, so thank you, Tominator 9000.
All right.
Be gone, fuck!
Richard Bier gives us $5, so thank you, Richard. And if you would like to join them, once again, it's feedthebadger.com/project/badger-media-blitz. Please do help us out. We only have 2 days left, and we have about 1,300 around there left on. I think it's 1,300, or it might actually be like 1,200 left. So we do have a certain amount left. 1,270 left. Okay. So please do help us out to support Brian Prim and Hannah for the month. Sorry I didn't do much guilt tripping and arm twisting. I wasn't really feeling it today.
Goddamn, cough it up, you people.
Yeah, okay, I'll do a little bit. Guys, you gotta support, because I was listening to another channel and they're like, this is brought to you from the company that makes this, and we don't have that. We just have you. You make this possible. So if you decide not to make this possible, we disappear, and the Laura Bates of the world get to cackle into their suspiciously non-CT.
Okay, well, you know, I could hook you up with My Patriot Supply.
My Patriot Supply. What?
They're a sponsor. My Patriot Supply.
Yeah, My Patriot Supply could sponsor your videos if you just promote their an entire freaking room of your house filled with everything you need to survive a zombie apocalypse.
Well, aside from how cool that is that a joke? Oh, I see, because we talk about the zombie apocalypse.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Maybe. Depends. I don't know. It depends on.
Yeah, no. But I'm just saying, they've reached out to me. I get a lot of people reaching out to me, and I'm like, did you not notice that, I haven't uploaded a video in, months?
Yeah.
I get a lot of sponsors
video in 2 years because I don't know what to say. I in 2000, prior to 2019, I'm like, we're in a bad track. Our society's probably going to implode. Then 2020 happened, and I'm like, wow, I did not think that I would be right.
You did not see that coming.
I did not. I said that was coming, but I did not see it.
You did not see it.
I did not see that coming.
Not see it coming.
I did not see it coming. Yeah.
But My Patriot Supply, just for everybody, I never took them up on their offer because 98% of their food products would kill my husband. So
they
probably kill me too. So we'll see. All right, let's finish those super chats, Brian.
Because it's food for normal people, right?
Right. Okay. Albert Nader Retro gives us $5 Canadian and says, Brian, if feminism is cancer, then I am its chemotherapy. When I'm done, she's be fine. Albert Nader Retro then gives us $2 a Canadian again and says, are you not entertained for the road, please, Brian? Okay.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here?
And Be Bad Sad gives us $5 and doesn't say anything. So thank you, Be Bad Sad. Whenever I read that name, I think of Strong Bad from Homestar Runner.
I just think that he's bad and then he's sad about it.
Yeah.
But I'm like, okay, just be bad and embrace it and don't be sad.
Do you guys want to get another couple seconds out of this?
Yeah, let's do a little bit.
And feminism in particular,
no more
bringing
cancer
lawsuits, trying to defund frontline sexual violence services, that sort of thing.
So yeah, trying to defund frontline sexual violence services.
Bringing lawsuits. Yeah, this is the Mark Angelucci.
The Mark Angelucci thing, right?
And then you have Trolls, a group which in some ways overlaps all of those, but in other ways is quite distinct. So those are the kind of specific groups that I identified, and the book looks at the different groups and at their overlaps with wider communities like white supremacists and the far right.
Of course it does. Of course. So,
of course.
I mean,
because everything does, really.
Yeah,
everything. Everything is white supremacism if you feminism hard enough.
Well, of course, you can always pile in white supremacy and homophobia and Christianity and libertarianism. They all get lumped in together. That's literally.
Oh, Christianity! You're going too far, Brian.
I know. But I mean, like,
Well-
yeah, this is like commonly done stuff. They're always saying, what do they always say about patriarchy? Is that it white supremacy and patriarchy go hand in hand. Well, why do they do that?
Oh yeah.
Why do they do
Yeah,
that?
I know. Even though like most of the patriarchal, most of the societies that could be called patriarchal at this point are brown societies.
Yeah, look at
Well, also a disproportionate, if not a majority, of the men in the Manosphere are not white. Like they're like PUAs and red pillars that are black. It's very common because they're the ones experiencing like the real like immediate effects of all of this bullshit. So like in the black population in the United States, that's where men and women are more disconnected, more suspicious of each other. There's more problems than anywhere else. And they're identifying it and they're saying, you know what, I think the problem is women, or at the very least, some ideas that women have, and I think we should talk about it. But of course, the feminists and the women who want to continue to benefit from the systems that feminists support, they're not going to, support those men. They're just going to side with the feminists because that's where their meal ticket comes from. So,
yeah,
that's what they think.
I mean, look at it this way: women have incredible power in society.
Yeah.
They have the power to essentially decide who is and isn't a human in many ways. And they use this power without nobody holds them to account for it. So yeah, it isn't even necessarily a matter of, oh, it's women. It's the fact that women aren't held to account for the things that they do.
Yeah.
And that's it. Like if you did this with men, now I think it's actually more difficult with men because, okay, let's be frank here. Men have evolved like all other male social mammals to provide and protect for the females and young of their group. The end. Okay, so that it's going to be really difficult.
Okay. No, not provide. Provide is like the optional one. Protect is the one. Yeah.
Provide is very much with pair bonding animals where the female is incapacitated during lactation.
Monogamous species provide and protect. Tournament species protect, and like you look at lions, the males lie around and all they do is fight off.
Actually, no, the males also hunt. There's a period in time in their environment when there's a type of food source where the animal that they hunt is too big for the lionesses to kill, and male lions.
Then the males step up and actually do that. But it's not typical. It's not their normal duty. But
it's every year they do that, but it's not like the whole year.
But when you look at it, okay, and you look at what are our options, because we're kind of halfway between the monogamous and the tournament systems here, right? So what are our options? Well, we had, right, up until very recently, we had a system where men provided and men protected, and it worked out really great, right? And then we were like, fuck men, and fuck them, and fuck them, and now they're like, well, I don't feel like protecting and I don't feel like providing, and women are now like, how dare you be MGTOW? How dare you walk away from women? That harms women. Right? That's dangerous to women. And it's like, but how dare you try and actually figure out how to form a relationship with a woman, because that's dangerous to women. Like the women, the feminists, right?
There's a commonality here.
They're completely fucking psychotic, and nobody's willing to call them on it. And then when women take advantage of this situation where they're like, oh, I'll marry this man, and then I won't even stick it out 10 years, and I'll take half of everything he owns, right? And I deserve it because that's what the law says, right? And I'm like, what the fuck did you do for the 8 years you were married to that guy? Nothing.
Yeah. Okay. All right, I disagree that we are in between a tournament and a parabonding species. I think we're far closer to parabonding.
Well, no, but we're between those.
Well, yeah, okay, fair enough. But then everything is between a parabonding and a tournament species.
No, because there's sexual dimorphism in terms of size and
I have an answer to that. There is now a new explanation for sexual dimorphism. So there are parabonding birds where one bird is like the male bird is significantly different in plumage or has a gigantic waddle, but they're still parabonders. There is a evolution. Listen, let me lay it out.
I'm just saying that probably we're more likely to be to be closer in our tendencies to other primates than to birds.
Yeah, but listen, this is I'm using this as an example of an evolutionary tendency that they've uncovered. And what they've uncovered is that extending courtship in a pair bond increases the opposite sex's contribution to the offspring. So even though they aren't actually they aren't attracting new mates, they're actually making their existing mate contribute more to the raising of the offspring. So
that's typical of primate pair bonders.
Yeah, so even sexual dimorphism, if men being 20% larger, which is about the same that wolves are as well, and they could be, I don't know if they're pair bonding, but you can have a male wolf with multiple female wolves. That happens. I don't know if they're tournament. I don't think they're tournament at all. But anyway,
well, if there's a harem of females for one male, then yeah, they have tournament tendencies.
Yeah, but they have everything. Like wolves do almost everything, including multiple male, one female, multiple male, multiple females, one. Like they can arrange themselves into all kinds of ways to exploit their environment. But my point is that if human sexual dichotomy leads to the opposite sex contributing more to their offspring, then that can be evolutionarily selected for. So,
of course.
Yeah. So
what's happening? That's the whole point. That's the whole point of how we came to be like 8 fucking billion of us tripping over each other, is because we arranged things this way for so long, and now we're undoing it all, and and then we're wondering why everything's falling apart.
But to explain what I'm getting at, so you can have a pair bond, and for example, women develop things like breasts, and it may not be for attracting additional mates, but to increase the contribution of the mate that they are pair bonded to. Do you see what I'm saying? And men may have evolved secondary sex characteristics for the same reason.
Well,
so the pair bond, but they
boobs evolved to be a signal that a female wasn't fertile. That she was either pregnant or lactating.
But
it was basically no, like originally permanent breasts would have been a signal that I'm not open for business because I'm either pregnant or lactating. Yeah. So I can't get pregnant, so there's no point in courting me.
Okay.
That's and it would have strengthened the bond with the primary partner, the pair bonded partner. Yes.
Yeah.
But it was like everything about female, like cryptic ovulation, all of that stuff, right? All of that stuff just supports the idea of generating father involvement and father investment in mother and offspring, right? Like and we had this system that was like peak fucking father investment, and then we just threw it away. We threw it away, and we're like, oh, the government can take that over, and fuck men. And it's like, and then, oh, everything's falling apart. And men are saying they don't want anything to do with women. And like, I just don't understand. And why aren't my milkshakes bringing the boys to the yard? Right. and it's like, yeah, because you got nothing to offer, because nobody has been like actually holding women accountable for anything for the last 100 years. Okay. Nobody's been holding women accountable for their bad actions. Nobody's been holding women accountable to a set of standards as to what makes a woman and what makes her desirable, right? And now you have like frickin' Dennis frickin' what's his name? Riley Dennis, right, saying, if you don't want to like suck my lady dick, then you're a bigot. And you have these gigantic fucking ham beasts saying, well, if you don't find my 390-pound physique attractive, then you're a bigot. And I'm just like, what?
Yeah,
like,
it's pretty what, isn't it?
There's no fucking standards. There's no nothing, right? There's no accountability. Women can just they can just demolish somebody's life and walk away, and everybody's like, well, your happiness is what really matters, right? I'm just blown away by this, right? And we had a system that worked for tens of thousands of years, right? A partnership, fellow travelers, men and women, a partnership between men and women that worked really well and that was reinforced by innovations of biology, right? Like cryptic ovulation and permanent female breasts. Okay? And the fact that men don't have a penis bone. Right? All of these things that basically reinforced this idea of men and women as partners, as teammates, as people who needed to have each other's backs, as people who needed to like be in the game together, right? And then since the 1910s, right, it's like team man against team woman.
Yeah.
And now we're like, why is society falling apart? Why are there so many children growing up without fathers? Why is there so much crime?
Oh, I think it's much worse than that now.
Oh my God!
Why are we suddenly no longer have things like bodily autonomy, freedom of?
Oh my fucking God!
Freedom of speech is long gone. Why don't we have freedom of mobility, freedom of association anymore? Why aren't we allowed? Why are we no longer allowed to walk down the street when we want? We're well beyond no fathers, we're well into we've marginalized masculinity, we've marginalized men, we've marginalized men's issues. We've removed that entire perspective from the discourse, from acceptable speech, and now we are cleaning up the rear with getting rid of every single value, freedom, and principle that men would usually rally to maintain, which they are to some degree now with this truckers rally. But that's why we're here. And we're just going to keep going down on this trajectory until people stand up for men. And by people, I mean women. Women need to stand up for men.
True. All right. We need to go.
We can stop it here. I mean, like a couple minutes left, but there's no point. So.
Oh, we can do this again on Monday, right? Or there's nothing left to squeeze in this lemon?
Oh, there's like 4 minutes or something left.
Yeah, there's like 4 minutes
3 and
left,
a half.
but it's probably a little less than that because I think
we'll be able to squeeze at least another 2 hours out of 3.5 minutes of this cunt.
Yeah, it will probably be on topic for about maybe a half hour of that.
Yeah.
Okay, so once again, I want to remind everybody, feedthebadger.com/project/badger-media-blitz. Have 2 days left, and nobody donated since the last time I talked. So we still have $1,270 left. Please do support us because we don't exist unless you do. And I know that's guilt tripping and arm twisting, but I'm going to do it because I want to continue to exist with this message. I feel that it is very important. Because this trajectory that we're on is scary. It's gotten increasingly scary.
It ain't no good.
It's different when you're like, yeah, I see where we're going versus actually being there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's different because we're there now. I mean, we got the truckers. Maybe they'll help do something. Maybe not. But then the other issue is that it looks like most likely the institutions that I don't know what we rely on them for anymore, but our institutions are going to have to change or topple. And I don't mean that in a violent sense, because probably this may happen completely without any involvement when they implode the currencies. But in order for anything to start to be straightened out, but then, or even to retain our freedoms, the very freedoms that built the society. And then after that, what do? We got to build something new. And from my study of history, the best way to do that is for women to support men in being cooperative in developing new cooperative systems with each other. There you go.
There you go. All right.
So I got some super chats, and then you can do some final thank yous. Sorry, they keep hitting us with. Eval79 gives us $9.99 and says just a hi. Thank you, Eval. And then Amasang gives us $5 and says, Brian, can you draw a dragon? I want to see your skills of an artist. I can, but I don't think I can right now because I'm. But thank you for the super chats. So I guess that's it for those. Do you want to say your final spiel and then I'll
thank you for everyone. Thank you for everyone who sent super chats. Thank you for everyone who went to Feed the Badger and donated. You can go to Feed the Badger and just click the pop-ups as well. And thank you to Karen for joining us. But no thanks for being from Edmonton.
Yeah.
I'll never forgive you for that.
Calgarian bitch.
Edmontonian thought. All right.
Okay, so if you guys like this video, please hit like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, hit the bell for notifications, leave us a comment. Let us know what you guys think about everything that we talked about today. And most importantly, please share this video because sharing is caring. Thank you guys so much for coming on today's episode of the Rantzerker. Did we even give the number? This is Rantzerker number 149.
149.
Big sister Laura Bates warns us about the Manosphere Menace in Sydney, Australia.
Is 149 the square root? Is there a square root to 149?
I don't know.
Okay, let's not get off on this tangent.
All right.
I need to go.
All right, thanks guys for coming on, and we'll talk to you all in the next video.
I was thinking of 144.
Men's right activists are machines, dude. Okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.